Friday, August the 14th, 2020. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of That's What G Said podcast. Gotta give a little shout out at the beginning of the show to my Nana. It's her birthday on August the 14th, so happy birthday, Nana. Okay, I'm like sweating from that NBA game right now. Damian Lillard and the Blazers. I mean, Lilliard is carrying them. We'll break it down a little bit in a minute. They've gotten pretty fortunate in some of these games, and they've gotten a little lucky, which, hey, you know what? Sometimes you need luck, but when you have someone like Lilliard who's carrying you, they very easily could have gotten eliminated. They very easily could have lost any of their last few games, which means they wouldn't be in the spot they're in. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and what's been going on there. A little NCAA news, baseball. We'll check in. Who's hot, who's not. We have an interview with Tyler Harringer from Sarah Candles, and we go through really all sports. We talk a little bit about the NHL bubble, talk a little bit about NBA, a little bit about the Dodgers and baseball, what's been going on with the Astros, a little horse racing, and then we talk a little Sarah Candles. We have some Friday Saratoga racing for you, some Friday Del Mar racing. We're going to do a Friday Stable Duel Del Mar lineup. Saturday Saratoga. We talked the late pick 5 with Scott Shapiro. Woodbine. We got some Woodbine. There's a big weekend up at Woodbine. Emily Gullikson joins us. We go through all of the stakes races for the Saturday Woodbine card. And then we're going to talk Del Mar Saturday. I just have one play. Since we're going to focus on Woodbine and Saratoga for Saturday, I honestly, I would have, if I liked 5, I would have given out 5. I just couldn't find many at Del Mar that I love for Saturday. We'll just give you one. And we'll close out with the Derby field. What does it look like? Ryan Dickey joins us. We talk all about the Derby news, who's planning on running, who's not planning on running, what does the field look like, what are the point standings. We go through every single horse that is a prospective horse to run in the Kentucky Derby on that first Saturday in September. Yeah, first Saturday in September. That sounds a little bit weird, doesn't it? Well, I mean, I was talking about this right away when we got started. What we just saw, if you were watching the NBA bubble game between Portland Trail Blazers and the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, this was incredible, just back and forth and back and forth. Brooklyn, I got a lot of respect for Brooklyn, fighting and not laying down here with the Blazers. And Lilliard, what he's been doing. So Lilliard had 42 points in this game. He was 8 for 14 from 3 and 8 for 9 from the free throw line. He had 12 assists. He hit some unbelievable threes. He's incredible. I love Lilliard. They gave up 133 points to the Brooklyn Nets team in regulation. They're playing no defense. Look at some of the games that Portland has won in the last few. They beat a Sixers team that was badly injured and depleted. They beat a Nuggets team that was sitting a lot of their major players. And so they've had things go very well for them, whereas I think a team like Memphis, if you look at what's happened to them, they've had an injury. They've played teams, it seems like, they played Toronto, and then the next game, the following day, Toronto decided to sit their starters. So they've just been a little bit unlucky, whereas Portland, being carried by Damian Lillard, they're healthier now. This is a better Portland team than they've been all year, but they've still crept in. It's a little scary, and it's a little disappointing for a team like the Phoenix Suns, who were undefeated in the bubble. To me, I felt like they were playing the best basketball. I think they were playing better than Portland, and Booker was playing incredible. I would have loved to see them have an opportunity to either play Portland or even get a first-round series against the Lakers. And, I think Lilliard is a scary opponent for the Lakers. Booker would have been a very scary opponent, too. I just watched so many of these games, and if Portland would have beat everybody by 20, I would have agreed and said, wow, yeah, they crushed. But they crept in so many. Tonight, if LeVert goes to the rack and hits that bucket, they lose. So I think what's going to end up happening now with Portland, they're the number 8. They are the number 8 seed. They are in the play-in. So what does that mean? There's a game on Saturday. It is the play-in game set for Saturday for the number 8 spot. It's going to be Portland versus Memphis. Memphis has to beat Portland Saturday and Sunday in order to get into the playoffs. Portland only has to win one of those 2 games. The way that Damian Lillard is playing, that's going to be tough for Memphis to beat them back-to-back games. But keep in mind, the Blazers, like I said, they barely got by a Sixers team missing some of their big stars. They did not get by a Clippers team that sat Kawhi and Paul George and Lou and Morris all down the stretch. So They're fun to watch. I think a lot of the reason why they're fun is because they don't play a whole ton of defense. They just go back and forth. And it is, for whoever's playing a Portland Trailblazers team, it's scary because when someone can go off for 50 or 60 any night, and he can shoot from anywhere, it's hard to defend Lilliard. And let's say this, because Lilliard's carried them, this is not a just Lilliard team. They are now back, healthier. Nurkic is back. McCollum can jump up and have an incredible game. There's still a little juice left in Carmelo Anthony's legs. Whiteside's been good off the bench, and Trent has been incredible. He's just been a revelation in the bubble. So they're a solid squad. I just don't... If they play the Lakers, we've already heard a lot of chatter about team pundits and analysts picking the Blazers. And I think for that reason, because they're going to be kind of a trendy pick, I'm pretty sure the Lakers are probably hearing all of this. And people are going to judge the Lakers off of their record in the bubble. When remember, that was one of the benefits of being a good regular season team, was you could get here, you could experiment a little bit, you didn't really have to push yourself to win all of these games, and they were able to get the rotation going. It's going to be a little different without Bradley, without Rondo, who are playing minutes, even though I think, maybe without Rondo, it actually may be a blessing in disguise for them. So Portland, Memphis, the winner of that is going to be playing the Lakers. And folks, we have the NBA playoffs starting on Monday. So the schedule now is out. The playoff schedule. So starting on Monday, we're going to have 4 games. And every playoff series is going to be every other day. And there are going to be 4 games per day. Pretty basic. Starting Monday, 1:30 Eastern time. So we'll get, on Monday, right off the bat, Denver, Utah, 1:30 Eastern. We're going to get, at 4 o'clock Eastern time, Brooklyn, Toronto. 6:30 Eastern time, Boston, Philly. And 9 Eastern, Clippers, Dallas. And when you move over to Tuesday, it'll be the other 4 series. You'll get Milwaukee, Orlando as the 1:30 Eastern time game. You will get... we'll get Miami, Indiana as the 4 Eastern game on Tuesday. OKC, Houston as the 6:30 Eastern time game on Tuesday. And then it'll be Lakers, and right now it looks like the Blazers. Memphis is going to have to beat them a couple times in order to get in. So, looking at the way things stack up, it won't be easy for the Lakers. The road that they will need in order to get to the finals is going to have to go through, it looks like, Portland, and then it'll be the winner of OKC, Houston, 2 teams that have played the Lakers really tough all year. And then it will probably be the Clippers. Now you look at the Clippers road. They play Dallas, who is good. It feels like Luka will probably need a year to go through some growing pains in the playoffs. But then if the Clippers win that first round series, the 3-6 teams in the West, they don't scare me. Denver doesn't feel like a title team to me. Maybe with the addition of Michael Porter Jr. that gives them an added X factor. And Utah is a team that both those teams don't match up very well with the Lakers. The Lakers match up very well with Utah and Denver. Jokic and Gobert don't match up well with Anthony Davis. I think he takes it a little personally that they're considered, very good big men, especially Gobert with his defensive prowess and his reputation, and he kind of goes at him. Whereas, a team like Oklahoma City, they're kind of playing with house money. I think they probably feel like they got nothing to lose here. And Houston, if they were to match up with the Lakers team, they could go small if Westbrook's healthy and playing, and Harden. They're just a weird team. They could get very streaky and beat anyone. And remember, this year, we have no proven teams. None of these teams are proven title teams together. Toronto's your returning champ. They're good. They're going to be a hard out, but will they be as good without the closer, Kawhi? Kawhi and the Clippers are going to be very good. They're going to be a tough out, but are they going to be able to have the chemistry and jumble everything together for a team that has been missing some pieces and kind of had to speed up the process of getting everybody together? The Lakers, LeBron's a proven winner, but this group isn't proven together. That's what makes this playoff season so fun in the NBA. We don't have the Warriors, the Spurs teams that were really good, the Heat teams that were really good, LeBron's Cavs teams that you kind of knew were always going to be there. These are a bunch of new groups of teams. We haven't seen the Lakers and Clippers as top-tier seeded teams in a while with these groups ever. Milwaukee and Toronto, Toronto will try to do it again without Kawhi. Milwaukee will try to do it for the first time. They have to prove, no matter how good their regular season was, can they get through the playoffs? Do they have the type of roster? Is Giannis, does he have enough right now? Can he make the free throws and the threes that they need to win? Man, I am pumped. This last few games in the bubble, watching the Blazers fend off elimination over and over and over again. Oh. So I'm going to have a full preview on Sunday night. I'm going to do a little different podcast schedule this week. We're going to have an earlier podcast coming out so we can preview all these series. I'm going to do a little research over the next couple days, and then we will know who is going to be in that 1-8 matchup for sure with the Lakers. And we'll go through each of the series, do some predictions, give you some numbers. As the NBA playoffs start on Monday, there's going to be a play-in game on Saturday. Blazers, Memphis Grizzlies for the right to play the Lakers in round 1. And before we switch topics, I just got to read some of these numbers. These were Lilliard's numbers. And don't, look, I've been sort of complaining about the Blazers and how they've had things a little bit easier. It feels like they've gotten some calls that went their way compared to some of the other teams they were battling with. Mainly because I think I like Lilliard, but I've been sort of disappointed with their team overall. They've just been able to get by. Look at what he's done in his last few games. He's my favorite non-Laker player. 51.3 points per game. He had 154 total points in his last 3 games. He shot 56% from the field. He was 46 of 82. He made 21 three-pointers in those last 3 games, 21 out of 43. 48, just under 49%. From the free throw line, he missed 2. He was 41 out of 43. He shot 95.8%. He had 27 assists, averaging 9 a game. He had 11 rebounds, averaging just over 3.5 a game. And he had 5 steals, over 1.5 a game. If LeVert goes to the rack, LeVert was just having his way with Portland in that fourth quarter. They're just going back and forth and back and forth. And if he goes to the rack, he probably eliminates them. That is what makes them the scariest to me as a fan of the Lakers. And I look at Lilliard and I look at the Blazers. I don't think the Lakers will be able to. You can't really stop him. I don't think they're going to be able to really slow him down a whole ton. But I don't think the Blazers are going to be able to slow down Anthony Davis or LeBron whatsoever. And it's just scary when you give a team 9 lives. They've had 4 or 5 opportunities in this bubble where they very well could have lost and wouldn't be around. So that's what makes them a really, really scary team here moving forward. Lilliard, absurd, just off the rails with some of those numbers. Over in the NCAA, it has been a crazy week. So we've heard the Pac-10, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten, they're not going to be playing. We heard the ACC, the SEC, they are going to be playing. We were waiting to hear about the Big 12. Their board of directors voted Tuesday night to allow their schools to go ahead with the fall season, and they've released the football schedule, and that schedule is going to begin on September the 26th. They will play 10-game seasons, 9 conference games, 1 non-conference game each. Red River Showdown between Texas and Oklahoma will be played at the Cotton Bowl on October 10th. So the SEC is the only conference that hasn't released their schedule yet. I'm moving through this CBS News article by Jordan Freeman and just going through some of the major points here. So the Big East will not hold a fall 2020 season. They've also canceled. And the Mid-American Conference, also not a Power 5, they've canceled their season. It's on Saturday. So we're starting to figure out conference by conference how everything is going to look. Mark Emmert, the NCAA president, had some things to say on Thursday. There will not be fall NCAA championships because there are not enough schools participating due to the pandemic, a decision that affects 22 championships, including football. The board of directors established that if you don't have half of the schools playing a sport, you cannot have a legitimate championship. We can't in any Division I NCAA, we can't in any D1 NCAA championship sport right now, which is everything other than FBS football that goes on in the fall. Sadly, tragically, that's going to be the case this fall, full stop. So the number of schools fell below 50% on Wednesday when the Big East announced its fall sports wouldn't be played. So, yeah, this is just going to be a different year. Some FCS schools still plan on playing non-conference football games, but unlike in the FBS, where the national champion is determined through the playoff, FCS schools won't have the NCAA championship. So this is difficult. Emmert said the fall sports, which include soccer, women's volleyball, and field hockey, should still turn to winter and spring to try to create legitimate championships. And we're talking about much more than football, right? There are a lot of kids, a lot of teens, young adults that have trained for many, many years to get to this point, and it's sad that this is what has to happen right now. It's sad that it's sad, right? That's how 2020 has been. So many people have worked so hard for so many things that unfortunately they weren't able to do this year as people continue to pass away from this crazy pandemic. So they're already talking about a bubble next year for some of the championships. He and the president, Mark Emmert, endorsed the idea of potentially using bubbles for NCAA championships, including basketball, in the first half of 2021. And it said perfectly viable in many sports. Starting with 64 teams is tough. 32, okay, maybe that's a manageable number. 16 is certainly manageable. You got to figure out those logistics. To the NCAA's senior vice president of championships, they've been working with committees and conferences to figure out logistics and economics of how it could work. It's obviously expensive to do that. If we need to do a bubble model and that's the only way, then we'll figure that out. So, at least starting to try to look ahead, because college basketball, looking at what NBA has done, you would think it might be doable, but how do you... There's a bubble situation. What kind of a bubble can you have for student athletes that need to be going to school or need to be going to classes? If they're going to be going to classes, if some of these schools are open, or what's it going to be like? Because that's what's crazy. It's not like there's one thing happening and that's how it's happening all over the country. It's this state's doing this area is doing this, Pac-12 doing that, Big Ten doing that, SEC doing that, and it's just, it really does feel like the wild, wild west right now. We've even had one of the coaches from Purdue, Jeff Brom, he had a detailed, thoughtful proposal for spring football and how it would work in fall 2021. Adam Rittenberg from ESPN tweeted this thing out, and it's well done. You know, he's got for the spring season in Saturday, starting February 27th through April 17th. He's got everything from the 2-week training camp build-up, and then a 4-week training camp, an 8-week season, and then a plan B for later in the year if you can't do that, starting in May. So it was, you know, everybody's thinking, they're thinking outside the box. People are working right now because everybody wants things to get back to normal as possible. We just want it to be in a healthy manner. And having a lot of kids out there in situations that might not be healthy, I don't like it. I do think some of these universities, they will get better treatment and better care and better testing, more frequent testing. They'll be in better situations than most likely if they were just at home. Some of the smaller schools, though, that can't afford that, they may be putting players in situations or putting players in a tough spot. I think everybody wants to play, and when you're young, you're not worrying about what 10, 20, 30 years down the line. That's why we kind of have to worry for them. So lots of NBA news going on out there, with baseball back, with basketball back. Golf is continuing to roll on, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for football within a month. Thrive Fantasy is rolling right now. What is Thrive Fantasy? It is a daily fantasy site. So do you like to play fantasy sports? You've probably played on different daily fantasy sites, or maybe you've played year-long fantasy leagues with your friends. This is an app, and these are contests that you can get into every day for $5, $10, $20, $25, where you have the opportunity to win thousands playing against other competitors. And what makes Thrive Fantasy a little bit different than some of the other sites is that they use prop as a way to build your lineup. So it's all based around prop bets. Give you an example. It'll say something like, will Tom Brady throw for over or under 250 yards? Over, you get 100 points. Under, you get 80 points. You end up picking your lineup based on the props. Which props do you think you can get max points from? If you're someone who plays a lot of player props, you will love this website. If you're a fantasy player, you'll love this website. If you're someone who likes to watch sports and just get a little extra action, you'll love this website. You'll love it even more because I'm going to give you a little bonus right now. If you go and deposit $20, if you use the promo code GINO when you make that deposit, you'll get an instant $20 bonus right back there. Instant $20 credit right back for you. So you'll turn the 20 into 40. You can check out the site. If you have any questions, let me know. Thrive Fantasy. Download the app. Promo code GINO gets you that $20 bonus when you deposit 20. Baseball, the Dodgers are 30% of the way down with their season. They played 20 games out of 60 so far. It just creeps up on you because baseball is such an everyday thing, and we're so used to such a long season that every time you look back down, it's like 25% of the season, now 30% of the season through. Let's talk about some of the things happening over the last few days in baseball. How about the Red Sox? The Red Sox are just getting destroyed right now. The Rays, this is from ESPN Stats and Info, the Rays outscored the Red Sox 42-22 in their 4-game sweep. The most runs the Rays have ever scored in a 4-game series, and the most the Red Sox have allowed since September 1978 against the Yankees, when they also allowed 42 in a 4-game series. That game was so long. It was 4 hours and 24 minutes, the longest 9-inning game in baseball this season, second longest in Rays history. They only had one game go longer than that. It was really long, and the Red Sox, they are struggling. You look at the way they're hitting. That's what's disappointing about this Red Sox team. We expected that their pitching would be lacking. No Sale. Eduardo Rodriguez, he's had the issues that were related to COVID, post-COVID. So their pitching staff wasn't going to be great. They have some okay pieces in the bullpen, but their starting pitching that they're throwing out there game to game is miserable. But hitting, their lineup, even without Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, Devers, who was one of the best players in baseball last year, Bogarts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Benintendi, Moreland, they're deep. And they're struggling. They are struggling. This Boston team is 6-13. They are one of the worst teams in baseball, and they are dead last in the American League East. Dead last at 6-13. And you know who's not a couple games ahead of them? You know who's 5 games better than them at 10-7 right now? The Baltimore Orioles, who have won 5 in a row. They have a plus 12 differential in 17 games. And when you look at their team stats, it's not that anyone's hitting 400. It doesn't seem unsustainable for them to be an okay team this year, even though on paper at the beginning of the season we thought they were going to be bad. Everyone's just kind of playing to their best version of themselves. They're hitting the ball well, and they're pitching well enough. They're one of the best fielding teams in baseball, and their pitching isn't in the bottom few. It's doing enough to keep them as a better than average team. They're playing really good baseball right now. The Orioles, this is a team that in the 60-game season, we thought they might win maybe 13 or 14 games, projected to be one of the worst teams in baseball. Playing well at 10-7. Can they sustain it? They've won 5 in a row, and we talked about the Rays sweeping the Red Sox. They've won 6 in a row. They're up to 12-8 now. Yankees at the top of the AL East. They're 12-6. Rays are 12-8, and the Orioles are 10-7 in the American League East. In the American League Central, Twins are playing good ball as we had imagined they would. They're 12-7, but it's the Tigers that are the sneaky team, and I think overall this division that I and many thought would be one of the worst, where the Tigers looked like they would be really bad on paper. The Royals looked they would be really bad on paper. Many thought the Indians would sort of take a step back, and it felt like the White Sox were on the rise, but still maybe a year away. These teams are all playing good ball. 4 of these teams are over 500, and even the Royals, who are 8-11, they've won 8 games already. That's more than a lot of people thought they would. They only have a -5 run differential in their 3 extra losses they've got. The White Sox are playing like a 500-ish team. The Indians are one of the best pitching teams in baseball. So the American League Central overall feels like a pretty big surprise to me. Not a whole lot's happened in the West, in the AL West, since we last talked a few days ago. The A's are up top there at 13-6. The Rangers are in second now at 8-9, and the Astros are at 8-10. So they're 4.5 games out of the American League West lead there. When you go to the National League, the Marlins, the Marlins are 8-4, and they're atop of the National League East. They're starting to make up more of those games that they've been a little behind now for some that they had to postpone. The Braves are 11-9, Mets 9-11. Nationals and Phillies not playing the best ball right now. They've lost a couple in a row. Phillies lost 3 in a row. Nationals have lost 2 in a row. Quietly, the Cubs continue to play good baseball. They're 12-3. They're 8-2 in the last 10. They've won 2 in a row. Darvish had no hitter through, I think, into the 7th. And they're getting... It's funny because they still feel like they're not even playing that well. Their pitching is overachieving, but their lineup is underachieving, and maybe it'll all come together at some point, and they'll hit better, but they'll give up more runs, and they'll still be a good team. They're better than I thought they were going to be this year, no doubt about it so far. And they've also benefited from the fact that the Cardinals have played 5 games. The Cardinals are 2-3. What is going to happen with the Cardinals? So the Cubs are in a division where one of their major rivals is going to be severely handcuffed the rest of the year. They're going to be in trouble. They're going to have to play so many doubleheaders to try and catch up. Their pitching is going to be completely depleted. They're going to be having to bring pitchers up and down over and over. The Cardinals are in trouble. And the Brewers and the Reds haven't been playing, that well. They're already 5.5 and 6 games behind the Cubs. The Cubs can just play under 500 ball the rest of the way through, and they're fine. They're going to lock up a playoff spot for them. You get off to a 12-3 start, that's what happens. They're finding ways to win. In the National League West, and the National League West has been a tough division. The Rockies are 12-6. The Dodgers have won a couple in a row now, and the Dodgers finally busted out on Thursday evening. Now, they beat the Padres 2 in a row, and they are 13-7. They have a plus 51 run differential, and Mookie, they hit 6 home runs for a team that has not been swinging the bat very well offensively. When you break their players down individually, the whole number still looked good for the Dodgers, and they look even better tonight after they scoring 11 runs on 13 hits, 6 home runs, 3 of them for Mookie Betts. The 6th time in his career that he's had 3 home runs in a game. So sort of a bust-out game for the Dodgers where they've had a sleepy offense so far, a game that they really, really needed where the bats come alive. Because, hey, they can't take a few games off or a week off when the Rockies and Padres are playing as well as they've been playing. This Padres team is no joke. They got crushed tonight. They got beat up. The Dodgers just exploded. Their offense did. But the Padres have played the Dodgers very, very well. Big night for the Dodgers. Big night for the Dodger bats. And we're going to get next to an interview with Tyler Harringer. He's a big Dodger fan. We did this interview on Wednesday, middle of the day Wednesday, so it was before the last couple Dodger games that have happened, so we're going to sound a little more disappointed in what has happened because they've had a couple big wins the last few, but we talk about some NHL. Tyler's just a huge sports fan. He's the head honcho over at Sarah Candles, and I've known him basically my whole life. And he's a big hockey fan. We talk a little bit about the bubble. He's a LA sports fan, so we talk about the Dodgers, a little bit about the Lakers and basketball, a little horse racing in the mix too. I mean, we bounce all over the place. It's a really fun conversation. And then he talks about Sarah Candles. Talks all about the company, why these candles are different, what he wanted to do, why they are healthier candles than the other candles that you get most places. Really fun discussion with Tyler Harringer from Sarah Candles. Very excited to have our good friend Tyler Harringer back, head honcho over at Sarah Candles. Tyler, I think you probably are the guest that's been on my show that I've known longer than any person ever. I don't think I've had someone on here that I've known since I was 4 years old ever. Very happy to have you back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm even if it's by default, I'm honored to be the guest that's known you the longest. The St. Luke Lions all the way back. Jeez.
I know. I was just thinking about that right now. I said, man, I don't think I've had anybody on that I've known as long as Tyler. So always fun when we can shoot the shit a little bit and chat some sports. So it's crazy. I mean, I think the last time I had you on was a few months back, and how things have changed in just a few months. Crazy world we're living in. But as sports fans, the last month or so, we've gotten a little bit of a taste back. And I know for you, I don't talk a whole lot of hockey on here. I know you're a huge hockey fan. What have been some of your overall thoughts of the way the NHL has been doing it with their bubble, couple bubble setups they have?
Yeah, I think what the NHL's done, comparable to what the NBA's done, has been quite incredible, quite remarkable. They've been able to, I think that, the NHL and the NBA, they've kind of worked. It seems, I'm sure they've kind of shared information, but it seems what they did, and they had the benefit, as opposed to baseball, of having most of their season already completed. So they just really needed to dive into the playoffs, and so they were kind of able to limit the number of teams. But it seems like they took a long look at it, felt what was best for the players, what was best to get everything accomplished. And hockey's done over 7,000 tests, and they haven't had one positive out of any player, staff, coach, or anybody that's inside either of the bubbles. And the product's been incredible. You've got guys that over the course of an 82 game season get beat up, and sometimes early in the playoffs, there's a lot of injuries, there's guys missing, and some of the games can be kind of who knows what you're going to get. But this year, because of the built-in break, every team's come back fresh, they've come back healthy, and the product's been incredible. We had
the buzz has been great.
We had a game last night that was in the top 5 longest games in NHL history. It went over to a 5 overtime. We had another overtime game today, and the games have been great. And it's weird watching hockey in August, but like you said, we got deprived for so many months that having all these sports all at once is actually, it's fun to watch. And you could flip on any channel and you could find something that you're interested in, whether it's anything from golf to basketball to soccer to baseball. There's always something on. There's a hockey game that started at 8 a.m. West Coast time today.
Yeah, and that's what's been cool about the NBA too with the bubble, is they've been we have to get all these games played in a short period of time. You're getting so many more games throughout the day. Even in baseball, we're seeing a lot of teams wouldn't play many day games, but we're seeing teams having to play earlier in the day because they got to get out of town or travel a little bit more. So it went from 0 to 100 right back. And yeah, we've got the NBA just with another day or two or so, and then we're going to start the playoffs next week. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for the Lakers. Hope things go well for them. And then in baseball, it's been weird with the Dodgers so far, Tyler. We're recording this on Wednesday before they play their game on Wednesday night against the Padres. And as of right now, the Dodgers are 11-7. But it's weird. It doesn't really feel like they've played one good game. It doesn't really feel like they've played. I think maybe last night where they got beat 6-2 was probably the first time where they got beat by more than 2 runs the entire year. It's been sort of weird. It's just, I think I'm not like going through the motions, but the team definitely has not hit yet, or is not even close to firing on all cylinders. Yet they've still been, winning games for the most part. I got mixed feelings with them.
Yes, you've described it perfectly. It's a very kind of awkward, because you watch them, especially like we do on a daily basis, and you say, well, they haven't really been spectacular. And then you look at the standings and they're tied, or they're 1 game back, I think, of the Rockies as we record this.
And their run differential is plus 36. It's not even close. They're the number 1 run differential team. So when you see something like that, you assume that it's going to even out. It's been weird, because there's really been, I think, 2 guys early on that were carrying this team were Seager and Pollock. Now Seager's been banged up for a little bit. We've seen kind of Bellinger, Jock, Muncy, Mookie was off to a slow start. He's been playing well. The other few kind of all struggled together. So I'm assuming they're gonna play a little bit better and they'll improve. But it hasn't been the greatest start. In particular because some of the other teams in our division are playing very well.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of I would assume this happens across most sports and across most cities, is that when you see your team, especially, we're kind of spoiled with the Dodgers, as it's on paper one of the best baseball teams probably in the last couple decades.
Oh yeah.
It's just the amount of talent they've amassed. So you see it and you watch every pitch and you watch every game, and you can kind of nitpick. But when you look at it in its totality, the record's fine. The run differential is insane. You've seen Dustin May and Julio Urias been incredible. Yes.
You're right. It's weird because the numbers, you still look at them and they're top 5 in a lot of the offensive statistic categories, even though their offense hasn't been clicking. They're still second in home runs, even though it feels like they haven't been playing well. And their pitching, their bullpen has been incredible, which that might be the one thing which is weird, because I think as Dodger fans, the last few years, we've always been a little worried about our bullpen. This year, I feel confident with 7 or 8 different guys down there.
Yes, the bullpen, like you said, we in the playoffs, I think even over the last few years, if if Kershaw comes out of the game or if Buehler comes out of the game, you start kind of holding your breath, and crossing your fingers, and you're rubbing the lucky
the rabbit's
Buddha
foot, yeah,
exactly. And now it seems like, geez, if these guys, if you can get 6 or 7 solid innings out of somebody, you're okay. And they're bringing in guys that are throwing over 100 miles an hour consistently. You've got Gratterall who's throwing 101 mile an hour sink, and you got Joe Kelly and
Baez Trennan now too has been awesome, and you've got Floro's been really good. We've got a couple nice lefties now. They went and got McGee, and Kolarek has been awesome ever since they got him last. So in that sense, it feels like this year I feel more confident in our pen than in the last few years, and in the options that we have down there. It's just, I think, like you said, we are in a good spot where it's like first world problems here. We're complaining about an 11-7 team, right? Because we want them to be so much better, and we know that when you look at them individually, they all can improve and be so much better. But I really do feel like it's going to come together in a few games to a week or so, where everyone will start to settle in a little bit. Like, I think we've seen that with Mookie. I think we've seen that with Turner. They struggled a little bit, and now they're starting to settle in, and the pitching's been really, really steady. So it's crazy, Tyler. We're 28-7, almost 30% of the way through the season now.
Yeah, I think that's also what is kind of fueling this too. If you're taking it back to a 162 game season, if the Dodgers are 11-7 in middle of May, and Bellinger's and Muncy are hitting what they're hitting, no one even says anything. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of the season, no big deal. But it's because of the urgency that everyone's kind of, and who knows, maybe they're kind of putting, that kind of pressure on themselves too. Oh man, we're a quarter way through the season and I'm batting 195. What's wrong with me? I need to start hitting, and they'll start pressing. And when you look at the underlying statistics, a lot of balls are being hit hard. Like you said, one or two things go a different way. Even last night, there was a ball that Mookie hit really well in a key spot that went all the way to the track, and the guy ran it down and caught it. If he doesn't catch it, it's off the wall. 2-3 run score. Who knows what happens? They're 11-7, but they could very easily, if you break it all down.
Before the last game, they could have not lost a game. Mm-hmm. Before the Padre game, when they felt like the game on Tuesday night, where they got beat by 4, they were down 6-1 at some point. That was the only game that they've really been out of this year. In a couple of their losses to San Francisco, they made base running errors. It just, in the small sample size, what we've seen from this Dodgers team is probably that their margin for error isn't as great as we assumed it would be. I think we all kind of assumed they would be so good that they would be able to just put up 8 runs every game and it wouldn't matter for the most part. But it's still baseball. It's still tight. These players haven't, had a lot of these guys aren't throwing quite as hard yet. They're not quite ramped up. They had to start and stop in their spring training. We know Buehler wasn't quite ready to rock and roll when things started. So I would rather be sitting where we are with our squad than I think anybody else sitting with their squad. I still like what we've got and where we're sitting and what I've seen out there. It just, you want it to all come together. Like when we're greedy as fans, we just want it to happen right now, instantly, Well,
especially since it's been over 30 years since the 1988, still trying to get that kind of monkey off our back. So
and with the Astros and the Red Sox stuff, we're like, we want to get these wins. We want to get a big one. We want our year now to just to finally be able to stand at the top of the mountain. And I'm sure you've seen. Did you get a good laugh at some of the stuff that's happened with the Astros so far this year?
And it's good to see also that again, they're what 7-9, and the Red Sox are playing well. And I think they did within the last couple hours of us taping this, they did announce that Joe Kelly's suspension was reduced from 8 to 5, which I still think is too many, and that's a joke. But we could spend 2 hours talking about the bad decisions Manfred's made. So.
I know, that's a whole podcast for sure.
But exactly, that's a whole nother 2 hours. But it's nice to see some other teams kind of stand up to the A's thing. I mean, that might have been a little bit isolated because it seems like the coach coming out of the dugout, which I'm glad they gave him 20. I just wish, my only problem with the Astros is I wish they would just handle it in a way where like they're still not admitting that any wrongdoing.
That's why people keep going after them. It's because they haven't just if they wouldn't have gotten punished, but they came out and were very, very contrite, but they've all still kind of been asses, like they've been really cocky. They've all acted like, well, we cheated, but it didn't really matter kind of a thing, instead of just being contrite. And so everyone is, there's the whole rest of the league is now anti-Astros, which is so funny, because like the other day, everybody is like, sending me messages, I love Joe Kelly, and now everyone's a big Ramon Laureano fan because of, what happened then.
And it's just, you see Dusty Baker's he's in a tough spot, but he took the job. And you're hearing him after the game, even after the Laureano incident, saying, I don't know why he's running towards our dugout. I don't know why this. It's like, why don't you just take the high road here and say, realize, read the room here, realize that your team's the target, your team made the mistake. Even if you weren't the manager at the time, and say, hey, look, we need to keep our guys in the dugout. Our coach is coming out of the dugout. Take a little responsibility, but they're always just passing the blame, and it just makes people hate them more.
It really does. It's just like an immaturity kind of thing, and like you said, just pass the blame. Wasn't us, wasn't me. It was that other one there. And so, and it's pretty crazy how this organization, like 4 years ago, they were this young, up and coming team. Everybody loved their young players. They had lost a bunch of games, but they thought they were a well-run organization. They've got all these stars. And then we find out all these things like, the cheating stuff throughout, and Yuli Gurriel with the racist stuff, in the World Series. And then we find out about the stuff that, some of the executives said about like Osuna, who was involved in sexual assault stuff. And it's just, and we've heard their president, like the owner and and some of the executives talk, and they always seem like like you said, they don't come off, whether contrite or whatever. It's been a crazy image shift for this organization, who went from like everybody in baseball loved them. They were this young, up and coming new team. They had lost a bunch. We felt like, they had some years where they lost, and now they're going to win, and now they're good. And it seems like every few weeks there's something else that comes out about them. And even with this stuff, the guy's, what is it? He's bad mouthing Laureano about his mother, and he's saying vile stuff about that. And he's waving him on, like, come and get me. And then he's backing up behind everybody, and he doesn't do anything. Like that kind of feels like who this group is right now, doesn't it?
It's very convenient. Come get me. And also, even if and like you say, he's backing up, he's letting other people kind of take the fight on for him. Who cares if he gets 20 games? It doesn't affect the play on the field. Laureano is one of the best players for the A's, they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. They could use his bat. They could definitely use his glove in the outfield. And now you take him off the field for a week. And the same thing, like, you're taking Joe Kelly off for 5 days when he didn't even get into a fight.
And he's a reliever, not a starter either, too, which like a starting pitcher, when they get suspended, sometimes they'll give starting pitchers a little longer suspension, because if you suspend them for 8 or 9 games, they're only going to miss 1 or 2 starts, So, but with Kelly, he could be in there every other day, 2 back-to-back days, a lot of times, 3 days and 4 start, 3 out of 4 days. It's, everything they've been doing with the Astros has been wrong. At least they gave this guy a good suspension for 20 games. Like, at least this was something, and it wasn't another opportunity for Manfred to just go crazy on the A's and let the Astros get away with it. But I think all of us, especially the Dodger fans who and probably the Yankee fans who maybe feel pretty slighted about these Astros, probably haven't minded seeing what we've seen over the last week and a half or so. So what have you? I mean, we've Talked a little hockey, little baseball. We've got some basketball playoffs coming up next week. What about college football? I mean, what are your thoughts on some of the stuff we've heard? It's kind of crazy to me that as of today on Wednesday, we've got the Pac-12 and the Big Ten that aren't going to play. We've got the SEC and the ACC that are going to play. The Big 12 today just said that they're going to try to play also. How crazy is it that we could literally have split in like half of college football playing and the other half not?
Yeah, it's a delicate because at the end of the day, we're in the middle of a national health crisis, and you've got leagues that are billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar enterprises. College football, again, there's over 100 programs in the country. Some of them make good money, SEC schools, big Power 5 schools. A lot of them don't make great money, and none of the kids are being paid. So to try to keep all the guys on the field, keep them all tested, it's expensive. It's tough. They're all 19, 20-year-old kids to try to keep them all in the dorms, there's a lot of moving parts going into it. And so I can see where as much as the fans in us really want them to play, and I know there's been arguments that, well, the kids are safer on campus. For some programs, maybe it's true. For LSU, Alabama, sure, they've got the funding, they've got the resources, they can keep all the kids there, feed them all, test them every day. They can make it work logistically. But for a lot of schools,
yep,
the travel, it's too difficult, and it's hard to blame any individual school or any individual conference for not wanting to put all these essentially unpaid athletes on the field and then tell them, like, go out and play and, don't worry about it. We got you covered if you get sick. But if one guy on the team gets it, you could wipe out a whole offensive line or a whole defense, and now they've got to fly and play another team. And it's just, I could see where in pro sports they're able to kind of make it work.
Yes, 100%. I can see in the NFL,
baseball,
even in the NFL trying to play. I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, there's 22 guys on the field. There's all the lines that are lining up, and you're going to have 15 people right up against each other. But I understand that they're getting paid. They can make that decision for themselves and their family as an adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do that's best? Because we've seen players in all of these sports opt out. I mean, the Lakers lost Avery Bradley. He was a big part of their team. He was a starter. Huge loss for them. We've seen, Buster Posey in baseball. He opted out. He was a multiple time All-Star, excellent player. We've seen it in all sports, and football so far has had, I think, close to 70 players opt out in the pros. But it rubs me a little bit wrong in college. And I think some of the studies have come out. There have been a couple players, one from the Big Ten, one from the Pac-12, kids that had COVID and that are not going to be able to play, wouldn't have been able to physically play this year because they've had lingering heart problems or respiratory problems or things like that. So now we're starting to see people who might have had this a couple months ago still have these lingering effects. And do you want to push a kid through that? It's different pushing a grown adult who's making millions of dollars. I just feel much differently about that. Mm-hmm. And I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna watch and recap. I think for this week or for next week, we got Hard Knocks starting up and we got the NFL. So I mean, we're a month away in the NFL. Do you think, like, I think they're gonna try? What's your gut feeling tell you on if we're gonna have an NFL season in a month?
I'm with you on that. I think they're going to try, and I think they, at least with the NFL, it's probably the richest sports league that we have. So I know they've got the resources, and I've seen what some of them are trying to do with testing and with trying to keep things sanitary and safe. And I've heard some interviews with some players. Like, I think Matt Ryan has detailed some stuff that the Falcons are doing that's been pretty comprehensive, pretty interesting.
Pretty good. I mean,
so I know they're going to have the top of the line stuff, and I know they have the money to do it. It's just a matter of, man, you've seen it with baseball. Look at the Cardinals have played 5 games because they've got guys that are going to the casino. It's like, at the end of the day, these are all still young men that are making their own decisions, and without the confines of a bubble, you're putting the onus on the guys themselves to conduct themselves in a way that they're going to stay indoors and they're going to stick to the program. And as long as you can keep them tested and keep them kind of on schedule, it could probably work. But all it takes is one guy, and you find out 3 days later that he contracted it. Well, now in that time, he's seen everybody on the roster. Mm-hmm. So now if you have it's in baseball, yeah, well, let's play a day-night doubleheader. Well, in football, if you miss a game, you can't play 2 games in a week. You can't. I mean, what are you going to do?
One thing I heard too about football, which is crazy to think about. It's really funny when you think that, like, there are only like 40 or quarterbacks in the entire world that are like legitimately able to come into a pro, like the NFL, and take snaps. And there's probably only 15 good ones in the entire world. And the same for kickers. I've actually heard they're thinking, a lot of these teams are thinking about forcing their quarterbacks to quarantine all week long in between games. Because could you imagine, kind of just like what you said, what if 2 quarterbacks get it on your team? What happens? You can't just there's not just a bunch of quarterbacks growing on trees out there. You can fill in,
especially if you've got a Russell Wilson or a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes. The drop off from Patrick Mahomes to, I'm not even sure who their backup's going to be this year, it's drastic. And especially what if they're in the quarterback room and Mahomes gives it to the backup? Now
all 3 of them got it.
What?
You can get a running back off of your practice squad. You can get a lineman or a defensive lineman, just like you said, where the difference between them and the starter might not be incredible, right? They're still going to be able to get the job done. But with a quarterback, it doesn't work that way. Even with kickers, too, we see it. There's not that many of them out there.
Yeah, and even the starting kickers struggle.
Yeah. What if a few of these quarterbacks are – and that's what scares me a little bit about college, just like you said. We saw Lou Williams go to the strip club when he went out. You're telling me these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids are going to do nothing all week long? When they're not going to go to a party, they're not going to hang out with a few extra people, they're not going to be around someone without their mask. And we get into the thing too with some of the people, it's become very political. So a lot of people in there don't really think this is that serious. They may not think it's that big of a deal. So when they're not being watched, maybe they aren't wearing their mask, doing the gloves, doing all the stuff they have to do. And that, when you have a team of college football players where there's 70, 80 guys in that room, that's not like a basketball team where you've got 12, or a hockey team where where your numbers are smaller, even a baseball team where you've got 25 and then another squad. It's just the numbers with football is what concerns me a little bit. And I mean, I know we love it. We play fantasy football together, and we want to be watching football each and every week. We'll keep our fingers crossed, because I'm hoping in the pros, like you said, they can toe that line of safety and still being able to get the product out there.
Yeah, it's like you said, the fans in us is fingers crossed, because there's nothing better than a Sunday football. But, you got to, at the same time, trust, I guess, that they're going to do everything in their power to try to play. And if they decide they can't, then they won't. But, you hope that only a month till it starts seems pretty quick. But, like I said, there's a lot can happen between then. I know they're working around the clock on trying to find a vaccine, and you just hope that, it all works out and they're able to play. And even if they, got to find a way, it's 2020. Baseball ended up being 60 games, and you just got to live with it and appreciate what you got. Every sport's had to change. If football's got to, for some reason, play 12 instead of 16, that people aren't going to be happy. But you know what? You got to take what you can, and just hope that everything works out and everybody's able to stay safe and get on the field.
So we were going all the way around the gamut. I know you like to dabble in the races a little bit. How's your summer been with the racing? Any luck over at Del Mar or Saratoga or any of these tracks?
Yes, Saratoga and Del Mar have been fun. That's the best kind of racing. You get the baby races, the 2-year-olds, and you can get some bombs, and you'll find yourself, 4 out of 4 going into close of pick 5. You'll have 8 of the 10 horses, and they'll run the 2 horses you don't have, run 1, 2, and you'll be scratching your head,
just kicking the street.
What's going on? But we had a little, I guess, not that I need to do a public service announcement on your show, but if you're not listening to That's What G Said, then you're not living your beast life today.
There we go. Yeah,
I got a little victory score on that, so that was fun. Had some win wager money on that. That was a good little choice there by you, and hopefully we get some more tomorrow.
Thank you.
But the racing's been fun, and it's kind of fun now. We're less than a month out from the Derby.
How weird is that?
I'm interested to see
September.
September, the Run for the Roses in September. I'm interested to see a little Tis the Law maybe going up against Art Collector. That should be fun.
Yeah, man, he's good, and he's funny. Like, I've tried to play against him a lot, and I've not. He does, as a gambler, you want to knock him, you want to beat him. I mean, it just in a horse racing, fan or covering the sport, he's been just incredible. He's been good. And now art collectors, kind of the new hot horse who's had a couple of good wins, as you mentioned, those two will take a ton of money. And it's definitely different because we've had sort of it's a war of attrition with these 3-year-olds and with horses in general. It's so hard to stay good and stay healthy for a long time. And we've seen, a lot of some of the Baffert horses like the Nadal, Charlatan, they might have been big players. A horse like Maxfield might have been a big player, and they won't be running come Derby time. So yeah, it's all going to be about 'tis the law. We'll see if Art Collector can get him. I think a horse like maybe like an Honor AP might be able to bounce back off a cruddy effort last time out. So yeah, it's crazy, Tyler, that come September we could be sitting on, the Derby, baseball, basketball, football, everything's still going. Everything going.
Get the Masters coming up.
I mean, it just could be absolutely incredible for a few weeks in September, unlike a year we've ever had before where we have all these sports going on at once. So, man, it's fun. It's just talking about it now is getting me a little more pumped up and excited because we've got so much going on now. In a few months, we didn't have much. But through the entire time, one thing we have had going, Sarah Candles, Sarah Candle Company. So you're the head honcho over there. And constantly seeing new scents being added. I know you teased a new collaboration coming up. And how are things going on your end? How have things been the last few months? And kind of give us the state of the union over there from Sarah Candles.
Yeah, everything's been good. We've had a little trouble over the last few months with some suppliers just because of the COVID. A lot of people aren't in the warehouses and stuff like that. So we've had a little shortage of supplies, but nothing too drastic. We've been able to kind of just stockpile and fight through, and we're actually working now on some getting some fall stuff up. The collaboration that you mentioned we're going to have coming up here, we're going to be debuting 5 new scents with that collaboration. That should probably be within the next month, and then soon thereafter we're going to be diving into our fall scents, which have been pretty popular in the past years. We'll have our kind of pumpkin pies and cinnamon spices types, and we'll have our Christmas scents coming up after that. So hopefully within the next few months, we'll have probably a total of about 10 to 12 new scents coming out in addition to the 25 or so that we offer. And we're hoping to just we're going to probably run some promotions around them, run some deals, try to get some people some candles in their house to feel, a little warm as we head into the fall time. And hopefully with the pandemic, it kind of, brings a little something to somebody. Maybe you can light a few candles in the house and we start getting back to normal life, hopefully in the fall, and the fall season comes and you start getting the holidays and everybody can cheer up a little bit and get back to normal life, hopefully here at the end of 2020.
What I've been saying is, throughout these last few months and even now, we're all kind of cooped up in the house a little bit more. We're not going out quite as much. So you've got, and it's getting warm. It was warm. You got some sweat going on. You got a few extra bodies in the house. You definitely need a candle to lighten the scents up a little bit. And then you got, like mom or dad or your uncle or someone is cooking something weird and then it stinks up the whole house. My sister's always doing this quinoa stuff and these healthy things. And then I walk in the whole house. It's like, I need to light me a candle or two. I think this is a great opportunity to do so. So I know it's kind of like asking you which of your children is your favorite, but give us a couple of your particular favorite scents. Which are some of the ones that for you are lighting up and burning for the most part?
I'm a big fan of the oak, moss, and amber. That's one of my favorite scents.
That's a great one. Yeah.
And then we got a new scent that we call High Tide. That's a really nice fresh scent. And I guess even for me when I first started, people think of candles like in the fall when it's cold and it's warm, but really in the summertime it's not really heating up your house. It's just more to kind of, again, maybe someone's cooking something weird and you need a little fresh scent in there. And so yeah, we've been lighting a lot of candles in the summer, man, just to bring a little different scent in the house, and maybe it'll bring you back somewhere. The Del Mar's a good one. Maybe you light that one and someone will walk in and you feel like you're back at the beach, so it's something that you can kind of light for all seasons. And again, with the price point, you can use the promo code Gino and get 10% off, and you can get a candle shipped to your house and you can get it for under $15. So it's something easy to try. And if you like one, you buy another one and you can try any scents. And a lot of times too, when people have been ordering, we've been sneaking an extra candle in the box, trying to give people a little pick me up here in the time. So, if you if you're curious and you want to throw an order in for one or two, I might accidentally drop another one in the box there for you.
I'm a fresh roses guy. I absolutely love the fresh roses. It's like, it really smells like you have a fresh batch of flowers right there, and it's strong, but it's not. What I love about your scents is they're there, but they don't hit you in the face. They don't like overpower you to the point where like some candles are just too much. That is not the way with you. It's a great smell, but it's a light complement to everything that's going on. And when we're talking about your candles, if the people out there that are listening and they buy candles here and there, they stop at the store, maybe they get some for their mom or their dad or brother, sister, whoever. The thing about your candles that's different, and one of the reasons why, I've loved helping you promote them here and talking about them on That's What G Said, is because these are candles that you didn't just say, I'm going to make candles. You said, I'm going to go in with an idea. I want these to be healthy, non-toxic candles that are actually better for you, that will, that can be different than other candles. So explain a little bit about that and what are some of the things that you use and that makes Cera candles different than the others.
Yeah, that's and what you said is completely true. We looked at, my mom's an avid candle burner for years. And so I was just kind of looking at the candles and just curiosity, seeing what's in them. And there's a lot of toxins in the wax. They use a synthetic wax, which is cheaper, and that's why you're able to get them for cheaper. And it's got some stuff in it that you could find in gasoline that you would put in your car, and you don't want to light that on fire in your house.
And breathe it in.
Yeah. Especially if you've got kids, or
kids, families, animals, all that stuff. Yeah.
So I said, there's got to be a way. There's got to be an alternative type of wax, and I found a soy-based wax that's got no additives, no toxins in it, and I found scents that are all natural, that have essential oils, that are healthy and clean burning. And I said, okay, now let me figure out the science behind them and figure out how much scent I need to put in there so that it's a good, healthy scent. But like you said, doesn't smack you in the face. It's not too much. But when you burn the candle down halfway, now there's no more scent, because a lot of the bbig companies will try to cut costs that way. They'll kind of put the scent on the top, and you light it, and the scent burns out.
About halfway down, you have to throw it away because there's nothing left.
Like, it's just a fire lit in my house now with synthetic wax. So I said, there's got to be a way that somebody can kind of curate a candle that is clean burning and burns properly. And it's affordable. You go on, if you type in soy candle on your Google search browser, you're going to find candles that are $50, $60, and more power to them. You're allowed to free market. You can charge whatever you like. But I said, why can't you have a nice, clean burning candle that is worth the money and burns all the way down, but it costs $15 instead of $60? Yeah. And so I couldn't find anything that did that. And I said, well, then how about if I try to make it myself? And so I did the research, and I, ran the numbers and calculated it all out and started creating candles, and the response was positive. And I said, okay, let's try to see, how many people we can get this into. And so far the response has been positive from everybody that I've talked to. And if anybody's curious and wants to try, like I said, we got 25 cents. We're constantly adding more. We're constantly adding seasonal scents. So I'm sure there's something in there that you like. And like I said, if you want to order a candle or two, you might, I might drop an extra candle in your box on accident, because I'm trying to get these things out to as many people as possible. I'm not, I guess at the end of the day, you're trying to run a business and you're trying to make money, but I'm really just trying to get these things out to as many people as possible, and see, just give people a different choice, a different option. So you don't feel like, if you like candles, go to the big box, and that may not be the best for you.
Tyler Harringer, the head honcho over at Cera Candles. Tyler, I love talking to you, as I said, because we're long time friends, and we could literally, there are few people that I could go around the horn, the gambit, like we just did, where we go from baseball to football, a little basketball, a little hockey, a little horse racing, a little bit of everything. I've enjoyed the last half hour plus. Thanks for coming on with me again, folks. Thanks for coming on with me again, and tell the folks, where can we get all the information? Where can we find stuff about Cera Candles?
Yeah, so best ceracandles.com. That's candles.com. And then we're Cera Candles on Instagram. If you have any questions about the candles, if you inquire about a specific scent or a specific size or anything like that, you can find information on the website. You can also send me a direct message on Cera Candles on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody have any questions or you have any comments or anything like that, more than happy to chat with anybody.
Awesome stuff. Tyler, buddy, let's hope that we'll just start winning a few more games here and there. We don't want the Dodgers to peak too early. We want them to be playing well come playoff and World Series time. So we'd rather have them playing better than. We just got to make sure we keep splitting and winning every series.
Yeah, and that's all we can ask for. And it really only matters once we get to the playoffs. So as long as we get in, it's World Series or bust, baby.
Absolutely. Tyler Harringer, Sarah Candle Company. Thanks so much, buddy. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too, Gino.
Folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on That's What G Said. We're just going to take a break here from one of our sponsors. Big thank you to Tyler. As you can hear, very knowledgeable, really fun, cool guy, and does a great job with Sarah Candles. Do me a favor, if you're someone who loves candles, if you know your mom or your dad, your brother, your sister, one of your friends do, or even if you just heard our conversation and you want to help support a small business, it helps support That's What G Said. If you use the promo code GINO, puts a few bucks in my pocket, takes a few dollars off of your candle purchase with a 10% discount, and it helps out Tyler quite a bit. So thanks again to Tyler. Don't forget Sarah Candles, Sarah Candle Company, sarahcandles.com. Use that promo code GINO. Let's get you into some Friday racing. Head over to Saratoga. Past performances out for August the 14th. Let's get you to race number 4. I'm going to just talk about the 4th a little bit and then a late pick 4 at Saratoga for Friday. So in race number 4, it's the Perfect Sting stakes race. They're going to go a mile and a 16th on the turf course. I thought the 2 horses to the outside were the 2 to use exotically, and I think Secret Message is the one to beat in here. And if she is close to 3-1, I think that's a great price on her. You could tell that when she doesn't run well, she just seems like she's a little overmatched. She really is honest, and she shows up if she's in a spot like this where she seems to be fit, where she seems to be a fit on a class level. She runs really well. I expect she's going to do just that in here, that Secret Message. The horse I might bet to win, if she's around 5-1 or so, is Shallure. You look up and down this field, and there is not a ton of speed. Cafe Americano isn't exactly a speed demon. Maybe we get P.D. Bianchi to just get aggressive and try to show some speed in there. Feel Glorious isn't that quick. Altea isn't that quick, and Secret Message is going to launch from the back. So even if the 2 P.D. Bianchi goes, Shallure might be able to sit right behind and work out a great trip. So take a look at the 7 and the 6 in here. I think those are the 2 horses you may want to play and throw into some of your early exotics. I just don't love a lot of the other races. And what's nice is now we have so many options. I'm never going to force, if I don't like the early pick 5 or I don't like sequences, I'm not going to force and tell you, hey, here's a $100 ticket to play. It feels dishonest to me. If I'm not playing that way, I'm going to tell you how I'm playing these days, and let's focus on the opinions that we are a little stronger with. So we move to race number 7. So yeah, number 6, Shallure, number 7, Secret Message. Use those 2 in the exotics in your early pick 5s if you're playing them. And when we play this race individually, maybe we use those 2 in exactas and with the 2 with each other, and maybe overall and all over if we can catch a price underneath too. Let's go to race number 7. This is the start of your late pick 4 here, and the 3 Fig Jelly is speed. I can understand if you want to use Fig Jelly. I'm going to chuck Fig Jelly out right off the bat. I'm going to go 5, 6, and 8 in here. I like the 5, Hurricane Hill, who will come running late. He's going to go second off the bench. The way this race shapes up, the 1's got some speed, the 2's got some speed, Fig Jelly's got some speed, Tenure's got some speed. Empire Line's adding the blinkers. I don't think this is a horse who's going to be speedy with this group, but he's shown speed previously before he came to the U.S. You have the 1A. I don't think both members of the entry are going to show speed. And even to the outside with LNZ is another one who's really quick. They could be flying up front early. I don't really want a lot of the speed horses in here. So I can understand if you want Fig Jelly, and maybe Fig Jelly sits just off with Irad Ortiz. I'm thinking he gets a little caught up in it here, though, and 5.5 he's not been a win machine. He's the type of horse who I generally like to play against. So the 5 Hurricane Hill, the 6 Empire Line with the blinkers on, he can sit closer. He's going to go second start off the long layoff, second time U.S. And the 8 Bourbon Currency, who had legitimate trouble last time out on July the 12th. And prior to that, the form is super. Just put a line right through that July 12th race, and any of those races would fit nicely with this group. 5, 8, 6. You want to throw the 3 in, feel free. It's just not a horse that I need, and I think in the long run, using short price favorites that we don't like is not going to be great for our pocketbooks. Let's move to race number 8. I'm going to go too deep in here with just the 4 and the 8. I think the 4 you could probably single Tail of the Union, but I do like the 8, Runaway Loot, a little bit. He absolutely just needed his last race. I don't know if he's got anything left like he used to have back in late 2018, 2019, where he put up some good efforts, but he's willing, to me, I'm willing to give him another opportunity here, and I'm not ready to give up on him quite yet. The race that he exits has come back really, really live over at Laurel. So it was an off track too, so it was footing that he come back off of a year-plus layoff, and you don't get the greatest footing. Now Joel is jumping aboard too, which you probably serve as a positive. I think there's a lot more than what we saw with him last time out. And, I mean, he's in a great spot here against New York breds because the purse of this race is a good purse. And he's been coming out of open races. I think there's a lot of upside with the 8. So let's use the 8 along with the 4, Tail of the Union and Runaway Loot. Those two in the pick 4. We move to race number 9. This is the race where I'll spread out a little bit. Argonne, the 2, is coming out of a very, very live race. I think this is a good spot for Argonne to maybe get a little confidence. The 4, Mr. Alec, tough to leave him out with the kind of speed and the tactical speed that he has. The entry for Chad Brown with voting control, that one's tough to leave out. And, with value engineering, if you get the 2-for-1 action, especially. The 8 Current, I'd probably make my slight top selection in here. But as you can tell, when I'm spreading out like this, I don't really have the strongest opinion. I just feel like this is a race that many could win, and we'll spread out 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 10. So I'm also going to use the 7 Conviction Trade, who I didn't talk a whole ton about. Conviction Trade coming off of that good third-place effort on July the 4th. Just a little bit wide, and I have no issue with just a repeat of that. And 2 back was behind value proposition. Fits very nicely if you're just looking at like numbers and speed figures with this group. And the 10, Empty Tomb, may have to step up a little bit, but I always love when Maker takes over with horses that are going long on the grass, and he goes immediately to the grass with this one, Empty Tomb. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 10 in the spread out race, which is race number 9 for me. I'll try to close out the pick 4 in the 10th at Saratoga. The 12 horse, Mopolka, please. Blinkers coming off. Her lone race on the grass was against New York bred maiden 40s. She finished 4th that day in a field of 11. She showed speed. It was her first start in a couple months. I thought she ran really, really well. She was actually favored in that race. And then since, she tried the dirt a couple different times. Didn't run that well. One of them, again, she was favored. Just showed a little bit of speed. She's got some speed. She's going to take the blinkers off. If she puts up an effort that's close to the Belmont turf race, she's right there with this group at price. Let's use the 12 in all of our exotics, and then we'll use along with some logicals. The 8, Lucky Latkas, the 9, Running on Entry, and the 10, Unicorn Sally. So we'll have a pick 4 at Saratoga on Friday, starting in race number 7. It's going to look like 3. I'm going to go 5, 6, 8. Chuck the 3 out. If you want to use the 3, that's fine. For me, the 3 is just the horse that I don't like doing this when there's favorites that you and so I've made such a point of talking about the 3. I've obviously put him in the winner's circle already. So 5, 6, 8 in race 7, with 4, 8 in race 8, with 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 10 in the 9th, with 8, 9, 10, 12. That is your Friday Saratoga. Let's continue with the Friday racing, and let's head on over to Del Mar for Friday. We're also going to talk at the end of this about the Friday Stable Duel contest at Del Mar. You can get involved for $10. I'm going to go through some horses to use in your lineups that I think will be nice prices that may help you get a little separation in some races. So let's start in race number 1 at Del Mar on Friday. I'm going to play an early pick 5 here. This is going to be a very weird ticket. It's going to be a little different, but remember, there's no right template for a pick 4 or a pick 5. It shouldn't always be, well, I'm going to single in 1 and use 3x3x3, or I'm going to go 2x2x2. Every sequence and every race is going to be different, so you must treat it as so. In race 1, I like the 9, Norma's Love. And how weird is that? I mentioned my grandma at the very beginning of the show. It's her birthday. Her name is actually Norma. Norma's Love. What's wrong with her turf form? The career debut, she was on the dirt at Gulfstream Park, put a line right through it. The other race that was taken off the grass in January put a line right through it. Now, she was in the Navarro barn, now comes into the Miller barn. What I like is that she's had a lot of time since she's last raced, and she's been in the Miller barn for a while now. She's been working on the Del Mar turf course. Give me Norma's Love. Using anything around 4-1, I'll make a win wager. Using along with the 5, 8, and 7. So it's going to be 5, 7, 8, 9 in the first race, leg 1 of the pick 5 sequence. And then get this. I'm going to go all in race 2. It's a field of 6. They're Calbred fillies and maiden filly 2-year-olds, 5.5 furlongs. I'm going to go all. And then we're going to go to race 3. It's a maiden special weight, 5 furlongs on the turf course. We have a field of 8 in here. We have 1 horse who has started, 7 first-time starters. I'm also going to go all. And then how I'm going to end this pick 5 is going to be with back-to-back singles. A little bit different, strange ticket, but that's just the way these races feel to me. In the 4th race, I like the 5 quite a bit, Operatic. First off the claim for Bob Hess Jr., and he's just been running in better, tougher races at Churchill and at Oaklawn Park. This is a great spot for him. There are no monsters in here. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up taking money. Pratt jumps aboard, so you're always going to get money when that's the case. I think it's going to be a really good spot for Operatic. So I will single the 5 in race number 4. And then in race number 5, I'm going to single Z Drop, the 6. Z Drop, he hasn't done much wrong, or she hasn't done much wrong in her career. Tossed the race back in May at Belmont Park, May of 2019, where it was in the slop. They were taking off the grass, going long. Everything else has been pretty solid. Even her last race on June the 14th, it was her first start since September. She needed the race, no doubt about it. She's going to be a lot sharper today. She was in a race that's come back live because the second place finisher, Maxim Rate, came back to win an optional 62 non-2 with a nice 92 buyer. Z-Drop is drawn well. She's pretty tactical. She doesn't have to be too far out of it. The way this race shapes up on paper, the 3 Raymundo's Secret has some speed. The 4 Tapwater has some speed and is going to be fresh. And the 5 Ellie Arroway has some speed. I think Z-Drop is going to be in a great spot in race number 5. So here's how this pick 5 would play out starting in race number 1. 5, 7, 8, 9, 4 deep, with all, which is 6 deep, with all, which is 8 deep, and then single, and then single. And this ticket is less than $100. It's 5, 7, 8, 9, so you got 4 times 6 is 24 times 8. 4 times 6 is 24. Cut it in half because it's a 50-cent ticket. $96. And, we get through the first race. It would be nice to kick back and then, root for a couple prices in races 2 and 3, and then hope our bullet singles come in races 5 and 6. If the 4th race, the number 5 Operatic, is around 5-2, that's a fair price. If Z-Drop is around 2-1, that's a fair price to me. I think they both get bet, so let's try to take advantage and make a little more money than just playing them in the win end, and maybe single them on the back end of pick 5s and hope we can string together a couple decent price winners in front of them. Now in race number 6, I like the 8 horse in here quite a bit, Run Like Kona. So she's raced twice. Her career debut was back on May the 15th at Santa Anita, race number 2. She was racing against Calbred maiden 50s that day, maiden 50 claimers. And she drew the rail, and she broke pretty well. She actually wasn't far out of it early, just maybe 3 lengths where she's sitting, and she kind of got outrun. She lost a ton of ground on the inside, 3 or 4 lengths. She kept to the inside, then she moved in between horses, then she had to stop and alter course. I thought it was a really good effort for her finishing third that day. It seemed like a good learning experience too. So much that the Connections decided to step her up and protect her, put her in a spot where she was facing Calibred maiden special weights. Well, things didn't go that well that day. She had a slow start, and then she just never got into it. But there have been 3 next out winners out of that race. It has come back very, very live. Now she's going to drop in against maiden 20s, and that's a sort of comparable. Open maiden 20s is like a comparable level to the Calibred maiden 50s that she was facing in her debut. This is a great spot for a run like Kona. If you can get anything around 4-1, I think she's worthy of a win wager. Make sure to use her in all of your exotics. Let's get to race number 7 with the number 9, Sugar Pickle. So she comes out of a race behind a nice next out winner, and this is a race that seems like it has a lot of speed on paper. The 3 Jewel Thief is quick. We'll try the turf for the first time. The 4 Majestic Gigi is quick. The 5 Sadie Bluegrass is quick. The 6 Mean Sophia is quick. The 7 Rain Diva is quick. The 8 Money is pretty quick. I can see this race having a very, very fast early pace. That seems like it'll set up for Sugar Pickle, coming out of a couple 5 furlong races on the dirt. So that'll at least get some speed sharpened up for a filly who had raced a mile a couple times before that. She's won going 5.5 furlongs, so we know she can win at the trip. She's run okay on the grass against better, I think a lot better than what's in this race. And and just the fact that Pratt takes the call is very, I think, a big major positive, obviously, when you get Pratt aboard. But he thinks this is a live filly who's going to get a lot of speed to run at in here. I would use the 9. I'd make a win wager if we can get around 4-1 or so. And in any exotics that you're playing, along with the 1, 2, and 3. Lay 2, Brittle and You, and Jewel Thief. Brittle and You, kind of the wild card, was claimed for $75,000 for Sadler. And they took one shot at Churchill going 6.5. Now they're in for 50 going 5 on the turf. I don't see that as a positive. Sadler's usually one who does what he did, can step him up and protect him when he claims him, not drop him back down like this. But maybe they just want to get aggressive because it's Del Mar and they want to get some wins. 9 with the 1, 2, and 3 in race number 7. Let's skip to race number 9, and let's go to the number 8, Golden Donut. Golden Donut had a layoff from September of 2017 to June of 2020. We're almost talking 3 full years. And he's come back and he's raced twice, June the 20th and July the 12th, and he's run well in both. He was only beaten 2+ lengths when he finished 3rd off of that long layoff in a field of 9. Last time out, he was close up early. He was like 5th. And he was in between horses. He had a little traffic. He was in the second flight, 3 off, and he made this nice early move up the inside from the rail. He opened up a couple lengths. He took the lead, opened up a few lengths. He led till mid-stretch. He's got a little bit tired. He's still getting his legs back. He had 3 years off. Now with those 2 races under his belt, he's had a month to recover from that race on July the 12th, now on August the 14th. So I'm not worried about any kind of a bounce for him. Give me Golden Donut. The number 8. We're going around 7-2. We'll make a win wager on Golden Donut. So that's your Del Mar Friday. If you are someone who likes to play Stable Duel. You know, what is Stable Duel? We had Bree Mott, the director of marketing, on our last episode to talk all about it. Stable Duel is the horse racing daily contest, the new contest with the Stable Duel app, and you can play on Friday at Del Mar in a contest for just $10, where you have to pick 10 horses throughout the card, and they have to fit based on a salary cap that you have. So you can't just pick the favorite in every race all the way down. Some races you're going to have to take a chance with some big long shots. I'm in the tournament for the contest for Friday at Del Mar. Here are some horses I think you might want to take a look at and base what their price is based on with their salary cap for Friday. So in race number 1, it's going to be the 9, Norma's Love, at $3,000. At the very fair price for a horse who I think will take a little bit of action. In the 4th, the number 5, Operatic, $7,000. I think he gets bet. I think that one gets bet even more. So paying $7,000 doesn't bother me. And Z drop at $7,500 in race number 5. The 2 horses I'm going to single in a lot of my exotics. I think they are not morning line favorites. So even if they end up going off as the favorite, it doesn't matter as far as your stable duel lineup is concerned. The fact that they aren't the morning line favorite means we're getting a little bit more value on them because they're a little bit cheaper. So Operatic in the fourth at 7,000, spend up there. In the fifth, the Z Drop at 7,500. I think you can spend up there. And then in race number 6, Run Like Kona, who was really good in the debut and then just faced tougher last time out. At $1,000, that does not take a whole lot off your salary cap. That's a really nice horse to use in race number 6 for your Stable Duel Friday lineup. In the 7th race, the 9, Sugar Pickle, and then again in the 9th, the 8, Golden Donut. Both of them are only $5,000. That's the average. You have a $50,000 salary cap, and you have to fill with 10 horses. So you're looking at about $5,000 per horse. So if you feel really confident all the way down at horses that are about $5,000, or if you go $3,000 in one race, you could spend up a little more at $7,000 in the next, and you work your way through building a lineup that way. To me, that's what I like about this Friday lineup is there are a lot of horses that I think fit and that I think will get bet down. I feel like I'm identifying some horses who may be getting played, and that's what we want. We'll be in situations where we're going to have shorter price horses at their off odds than the morning line, which means we didn't have to pay up as much for them as we maybe we should have on our Stable Duel lineup. So play, race, win. If you ever have any questions about Stable Duel, just let me know. We're always going to be breaking down lineups and providing analysis here on That's What G Said. Next up, we flip the page to Saturday. Let's start with Saratoga. Saturday, we're going to talk with Scott Shapiro, and we're going to go through the late pick 5, starting in race number 7. Get your past performances out for Saratoga Saturday, August the 15th. We've got a couple stakes races, including the Grade 1 Alabama with Swiss Sky Diver. Enjoy the conversation on the Saturday late pick 5 from Saratoga. Another big week of racing at Saratoga, a big weekend. We're going to be focusing in on this particular episode of That's What G Said, and joining us now, good friend of the show, good friend in general, someone who's been joining us from the very beginning. Anywhere that I have some content, you're always going to hear him because I'm gonna reach out to one of my good friends who I love talking racing with, love talking sports with, Scott Shapiro. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Gino. We're 23 days out from the Kentucky Derby, so things here in Louisville starting to heat up a little. And in the meanwhile, we got the big weekend of racing with the Alabama at Saratoga, and then Pacific Classic out your way next weekend.
Yeah, and I know you're someone who likes to dabble and wager on some other sports, and you definitely analyze and do work on a lot of other sports. And so we've had horse racing really all along through this pandemic, which has been very nice for us horse racing fans when some of the other major sports had to postpone or cancel. But now we're starting to see some of the big sports come back. We've got baseball back now. We've got basketball back now. We've got hockey back now. I know for you, it's probably bittersweet because let's see, some of your biggest things that you focus the most on, golf, which has been rolling, but college basketball, I know you're really high on. So no March Madness, that hurt just from your fandom. And then with college football now, I know you're a big college football fan, and with everything going on there with, you're a Big Ten guy. I'm a Pac-12 guy. Our conferences have canceled. We know that the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC, they are going to try to play. It's just, what a crazy year again when something like this is happening.
It's certainly crazy, and I don't know what to think. I guess I got the heart ripped out of me right before March Madness with sport, and I guess I'm kind of like subconsciously not letting anything bother me after that.
Pessimistic maybe, or even
it just ripped my heart out. I don't want to have it happen again. I don't want to start up anything and then have it stopped.
I know.
And I'm okay with the college football not happening. It sucks, and when it comes around, but yeah, like you said, racing and golf I've been very lucky. They're two of my big things, and they've continued to go on. And we'll cross our fingers for the NFL. I hope they've got it figured out. I think there's a lot of logistics that are different than college. They
got a better shot than college, at least. I feel like with them being professionals, they're getting paid, they have the ability and the money and the opportunity to do things a little bit differently than the college kids could, and you would hope you could trust them, although we've seen in the NBA situations like this, you would hope you could trust some of the players to know that, hey, we're in a unique situation right now, this isn't like normal. But it's hard. We're all human. You have a tough day. You want to go out, you do something. And a lot of people, it comes down to beliefs too, where people stand on what they think with everything that's been going on. Some people don't think this is that big a deal. And if that's where you stand, you could be one of the players that could quickly infect the whole team. So it's just, God, there's so many layers to all of this, and we've had Hard Knocks start up too. I'm going to recap that episode and those episodes starting next week. But at least there's we've got some baseball, we've got some basketball, we've got some hockey, and the momentum seems like we're going to get some NFL. So hey, it's a hell of a lot better than we were a few months ago, Scott.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And just going to try to remain optimistic, prepping for as if the NFL season's going to go. And, we got good racing in the fall here in Kentucky. So excited for that, fans or no fans, and excited for the other golf majors and the FedEx playoffs.
Yep. So big racing this weekend at Saratoga that we're going to focus on. If you're following along, get your past performances out. Scott and I are going to talk about the late pick 5 for the Saturday card. So we're talking August the 15th at Saratoga. We're going to start in race number 7 in here. And what makes this race difficult, Scott, you have a New York bred's first level allowance, and they're going to go a mile on the turf course. You have 7 horses that exit that July 25th race, and there were a couple that had just unbelievably brutal trips. I think we might have talked about that race last time we talked. And Mo Reddy was a horse who was coming off the bench, was first time gelding, and he had just a horrendous trip down inside with absolutely no opportunity to run. For the trip players and the folks that watch replays, I'd imagine he's going to take a lot of money and probably get bet in here.
Yeah, him as well as Simply, who got completely stopped.
He was right behind him, and he kind of backed up into him, and they were just both stuck there.
Right. And I think what's important to remember about that race, and other than the bad trips, was that that was the rare case in New York 2-turn turf races where it was a fast, contentious early pace. So I really like Sanctuary City. It was a horse I used that day quite a bit. And he's a nice horse, but he got the setup that day. I'm not sure if it's going to be as fast of a pace in here. Gino, you've got Dan Fusey, who will almost definitely be on the lead. You've got Steelers fan for life, who tried to come from just off the pace, but from more of an outside draw last time. I expect him to be involved, and maybe Kid de Oro, but I don't know if it's going to be a race where you want someone from well out of it. I think it might be more of a race where you want someone from that second tier.
I agree.
And one horse that I think is interesting, in addition to the 2 trip horses, Mo Reddy and Simply, is number 3, Albie, who gets a big positive rider change to Joel Rosario. And maybe more noteworthy is the fact that Carlos Martin takes the blinkers off. This horse was involved in the pace that day, but with Rosario and the blinkers off, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of a different story with the trip. The inside draw is favorable. I would think Albie can sit a nice mid-pack trip in this race. And while Carlos Martin is 0 for 10 at the meet going into Thursday, I don't think he won a race either of those days. I printed these out before then. But I do think this horse is worth a look. As well as Mo Reddy and Simply. I think those are the 3 horses that are going to get the best trips. And, hopefully for Mo Reddy and Simply, they get a better trip than last time.
Anything's better than what the trip that they both got. Yeah, it was brutal. And what you said, and like Mo Reddy feels to me like he's just a perfect fit in here with the second off the bench. And he's got the style that you mapped out that I think will win this race. Sitting off the pace, getting able to get a jump on some of the stone cold closers. So I don't know what to do with Dan Fusey, based on what happened last time out. He really stopped so badly. They went quick in the second kind of third quarters there, and that just did him in. I would have loved to see him finish a little bit better, but I can see this as you mentioned a few different times, being, he can get out front, and if he slows things down and relax, there doesn't seem to be that much other pace in here.
Yeah, no, he could be dangerous. The Brad Cox barn hasn't really got things going up to the capabilities that we are accustomed to see him, but it's third off the layoff. They switched to Luis Saez. I don't know if Joel Rosario opted. A little bit of musical jockeys here.
Yeah.
Simply had Rosario.
A lot on Saturday. You see a lot of this on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, you never know the stories with the situations, but I could see using Dan Fusey in there as well.
He's the price. If he was,
he's 8-1.
If he's 5-1 or over, I'm okay with him. I didn't love the, you obviously don't want to use him if he's going to get hammered down, if he's the price like he was last time out, but he doesn't project to be that way in this field. So yeah, I don't mind using him with that kind of speed if he's 5-6 to 1. But I'll probably play two different tickets, how I generally do. And I'm going to play one ticket where I single Mo Ready right off the bat. And then I'll play one where I'm going to use most of the horses that we just talked about. I'll throw in Dan Fuzzy, I'll throw in Simply, I'll throw in Albie, maybe even Bourbon Bay from the Rail First Time Turf on like a deeper ticket. So yeah, this is a race where like I was trying to get to Jack the Cat, but I think maybe drawn towards the outside. I could see him underneath. Yeah.
That's a tough post in that quick run into the 1 mile. That last couple races are mile and a 16th at Belmont. Totally different trip. But yeah, I had John Doyle on my podcast this morning, and he mentioned the optics. I know you're a big supporter of those guys as well. And they had a note that this horse, they thought this horse was going to be a turf horse and hasn't tried the turf yet. Mark Hennig, I know, for his last 44 with his first time runners on the grass, but that'll only help the price. So could get a good trip at a big price.
We actually have on the same show you're on that's going to be released late Thursday. Emily Gullikson's on with us talking about Woodbine for the weekend because I got a big weekend up at Woodbine and she covers the races up there too. So yeah, we always give some love to Optics and the folks over there, Optics EQ. Let's get to the first of the couple solid stakes races here. We're going to have back-to-back heavy favorites, it looks like. First, we're going to have the Saratoga Derby, where you have some quality 3-year-olds on the grass in here. We have to start the conversation with Decorated Invader because he's done so little wrong in his career. He's won 3 consecutive races so far this year. He's perfect in 2020. He's got a big late kick. He's been in some smaller fields lately, so he's probably had to sit a little closer than he wants to. But for a short price favorite, you do have a question in that he's never been quite this far, so you wonder sometimes going a little bit farther, will he have the same turn of foot? But, he's quality, and this is not an easy field for him, Scott. He's got to face a couple other quality animals. Gufo is not bad. Colonel Liam is interesting. I like Field Pass in here. I'll talk more about him in a little bit. So this isn't the easiest of spots for a quality horse like Decorated Invader.
No, definitely not. I think I would argue it's his toughest race since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
100%.
Where I think he was best that day, even though he finished 4th. He's hard to knock because he's really done very little wrong. He lost a Field Pass in the debut, finishing 2nd in a strong field of 9, and then just that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. But I think, and the one thing I like about him is he's tactical. He can come from well out of it, or he can sit 2nd or 3rd like he did in his last couple starts. But he's really not faster than these horses, and he hasn't really developed this year. So I definitely think if you're someone that's price sensitive, you're going to want to maybe consider either taking a chance against him or using several in terms of a pick 5.
Especially with the way this pick 5 stacks up, because you've got him and you've got Swiss Skydiver in the race coming next up, and they're both going to be heavy favorites. So in my opinion, the way that I'm approaching this race, I think you got to take a swing against one of them. You don't. I don't like playing tickets, especially because I'm going to play a ticket where I might be singling Mo Ready early on, who will probably end up going off at like 5-2 or even shorter after people watch the replays. So I don't want to be locked in or have an opportunity when I'm playing a pick 5 where it goes probably chalk, and it very easily could. I think they're both a little vulnerable. I really do.
Me too.
In here, I think so. That doesn't mean I'm going to chuck them both out, but I won't be singling either one of them is how I'm trying to say it. It's a really stupid way of saying it.
Yeah, well, me too. And I think that Mo Ready is going to be the favorite most likely, you would assume, and maybe a considerable one at 5-2 or so. I think that's a race where people are going to spread.
Absolutely.
I don't think a lot of people are going to go, combination of it
being
a full field
in the spreads because people will all be spreading. It won't be like a single in ticket. So he'll probably be overlaid in the multis, Yep.
Yeah. So I think you'll have a contrarian approach if you single Mo Ready and then spread a little bit in the 2 stakes races, even if you decide to include both favorites in that. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. I think Get Smokin' will clearly be on the lead from the outside. Whether Luis Saez is as aggressive as Jose Ortiz was last time remains to be seen. But I think you got Colonel Liam, who has the upside, will be sitting 2nd in this race, really seemed to take to the turf last time out, but this is certainly a class check. I'm against Field Pass. I know you said you like him, and it's not as if I don't think he can win. I expect him to take a little money from that 6-1 line, but he's just had everything his way the last 2 starts, and I don't like to discredit horses that have a nose for the wire, but 2 neck victories against Lesser, in my opinion. Then he got an easy lead in a 1.125 race at Audubon when he basically burned, for lack of a better verb, a horse out of the gate, made an easy lead, and I thought Bama Breeze was the best horse that day. I'll talk about in a second. And then last time just got that perfect turf trip, saved ground early, angled out under Ricardo Santana Jr., and won a blanket finish. Now, like I said, the nose for the wire is something I never like to discredit, but I don't know. I think Bama Breeze at 2.5 times the price is the one that you want to consider betting, and maybe even from a vertical standpoint, key in underneath or in all spots in the trifecta. This horse has just not had things his way. The confidence from Rusty Arnold. This horse is a one-time winner, and he keeps putting him in stakes events instead of through his conditions. The War Chan, he didn't have a good trip. The Audubon, he was against the flow of the race, like I mentioned, into the field pass. And the Transylvania, he got stopped midway through and never got a fair shake and still lost by just 1.25 lengths. So at a big price, I think Bama Breeze is a horse you want to make sure you use in all your wagers in this race.
Yeah, and I'm going to use Bama Breeze on the tickets, especially those tickets where I'm singling with right off the bat. And for me, Decorated Invader, I feel very similar to how you said. I have no knocks on him. He just doesn't feel to me like a horse who, for what I think will be an overwhelming favorite in here, he doesn't seem to tower over this field that much on paper. Just on numbers and figures alone. Generally, when you get a horse who's going to be that sort of a price, they have this standout speed figure advantage, and that's just not the case at all in here. And so I'm completely okay with looking to horses that you like. Bama Breeze, like you mentioned. I like Field Pass, and I think some of the reason why I like Field Pass is because he's gotten me a few times. Like, I've tried to beat him a few times.
Oh,
before,
he's gotten me.
He's gotten me just a few, and for the same reasons where I've been like, you know what, he got a good trip, or maybe he's not quite as good as this group or whatever. So he just has sort of made me a little bit of a believer because he's 4 of his last 5, just like you said, and his lone loss came to the horse who's a horse who's pretty nice and just won the La Jolla. So, and what's cool is he's won over Decorated Invader, Bama Breeze, and Get Smokin'. You can definitely argue that in a couple of those, he was not the best horse. But for some reason, like you said, some horses just find trouble, and other horses do the opposite. They find ways to win. He's been one of those types. So I'll be using him. Colonel Liam, I think there's too much upside to not to use him in this spot too. And then even Clement said he thought Gouffo. He said he felt more comfortable that Gouffo would be better going longer. That doesn't mean he wins this than Decorated Invader. Doesn't mean he wins this race, but he said he felt like he's more of a horse who starts to get going and can probably keep going even more.
Yeah, Gouffo is probably a must-use, although the lack of speed is a little concerning. But if I like Bama Breeze, I'm probably supposed to use Gouffo as well. And even Domestic Spending, who had a lot of run late last time out, has been on the rail 3 straight starts. I know those are 2-turn races, or other than Belmont, not the end of the world to be on the rail. But maybe just getting a little outside will be more comfortable or more forwardly placed. But, yeah, very interesting race, despite there being a 7-5 favorite, I think.
Yeah, agree. It's more wide open to the both of us than what the line would indicate and what the betting will probably suggest. So let's get to the Grade 1 Alabama, 1.25 miles for the 3-year-old fillies, and we have the head and shoulders top of the division, Swiss Skydiver, who was kind of funny. I was reading an article on DRF, and the owner here, Peter Callahan, they had talked about how they're most likely not going to run this filly in the Derby, even though she has enough points if she wanted to go in the Derby and face the boys. And he kind of took a little shot at Gamine and said, hey, we're going to go to the Oaks, bring on Gamine. So he's already taking some shots at Gamine before the Alabama even. And I'm a little concerned with her because I'm looking. In January, she's at Tampa. In February, she's at Fairgrounds. In March, she's at Gulfstream. In May, the beginning, she's at Oaklawn. Then she's at Santa Anita. Then she's at Keeneland. She faces the boys last time out in a really tough race where she had to dig down for the first time in a while, and she was bested. Did that tough race take something out of her? You add that to all of the travel, and now she's going to go 1.25 miles here at a racetrack where that last furlong sometimes even feels like more than a furlong.
No doubt.
I think this might be a really nice spot. If they're looking towards the Oaks even as the big one, and maybe they're not quite as worried about this race, and this is just the next spot along the way, I'm going to take a swing against her. I'm going to use a couple horses. I'm not going to use her.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very odd. If the goal is the Kentucky Oaks, this is not, in my opinion, a very good decision to come to the Alabama and run in 1.25 miles.
She's just done so much.
That.
You don't need to do. She's done so much this year already. But I understand when your animal is good and going good. This is a grade 1 for 500,000.
Right.
You know, this isn't like an allowance prep that they're going in. So I completely understand it. It's just, I'm worried it's going to catch up with her at some point. All of the work she's done, all the travel, she's been so good. There are a couple nice up-and-coming fillies in this race.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the other concern is, does she get caught up with Crystal Ball, who's drawn towards the inside and needs some speed? So they could go a little quicker than maybe Swiss Skydiver and Tyler Gaffney on one, or maybe they stalk and, it doesn't work out as well. But, there's a couple horses in here that I think are worth discussing. The top pick for me is going to be Spice is Nice. This is a $1.05 million Keeneland September 2018 purchase, just regally bred, curling by Dame Dorothy, who was a stud in her own right. Stud is kind of probably not the right word, but yeah, superstar in her own right, yeah. But this horse has the look and the pedigree to go long and longer. Ignore that fact that the only 2-turn race was a failure because she was just never comfortable that day. She just didn't take to the surface at Gulfstream. It happened. I know
she got
she's
really
good
sick
race.
too. Todd had said it afterward. It was just she might have even been before the race. It just everything didn't really go well for her that day. It's a complete toss.
Right, and I think she grew up with the time off. She maybe grew into herself a little because she was very impressive at Belmont. It's a 1-turn mile and a 16th, so it's a different game. She had an outside stalking trip. But I think Johnny V can sit the pocket in this race, hopefully, off of Swiss Skydiver and Crystal Ball and get first run on them. And then maybe a little bit of a bigger prices in here. You have Bonnie South, who makes the second start of the form cycle for Brad Cox, was against the flow in the race with Speech and Venetian Harbor, the Ashland, where they basically lined up 1-2, and Speech just got much the best of Venetian Harbor. No one from the back of the pack really had any chance. I thought Envutant was a little bit unimpressive that day, sitting third, but I can excuse that for Bonnie South. And then, I've heard from a couple people I really respect that Harvey's Little Goyle's a turf horse, but I think she's a good horse.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, she was probably second best in the regret on turf, but ran huge. Crystal Cliffs is a very nice runner. But, I mean, I just could toss that fantasy. She was absolutely brutal trip into that first turn, never got a fair shake in there. And other than that, has been very good on
distance, no concerns. I think she can run all day. I'm not worried about her getting the 1.25 miles. And I completely agree. Those are the 3 horses you mentioned are the 3 that I'm going to use trying to beat Swiss Skydiver. I'm going to use Spice is Nice, Bonnie South, and Harvey's Little Goyle. And I like Crystal Ball a little bit, but I'm just the way that I'm envisioning this race, I can't see her winning. I can see her making it very tough for Swiss Skydiver and the two of them battling. And what I'm hoping is Spice is Nice sitting right behind that. But the way I'm envisioning it, I don't know if she's going to be able to clear Swiss Skydiver. If she does and Swiss Skydiver sits just off, that'll probably be a great trip for Swiss Skydiver. So I have a tough time seeing Crystal Ball getting the trip she needs. Those other 3 that you mentioned, those are the 3 I'm using. I'll be using 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go in here. Not that Swiss Skydiver can't win. I don't think Crystal Ball is fast enough. I really don't for these. I think, I don't think she's fast enough, and B, I don't see any way she sets a moderate early tempo. She's going to have the classy filly drawn to her outside, should be stalking her, or should be maybe even might even be Swiss Skydiver might even be faster than her to the lead if she wants to with the class, and that would really hurt Crystal Ball. So I'm against Crystal Ball. Not that that's that crazy of an opinion at 9-2 on the line, but it is a Bob Baffert horse that probably will take a little bit of money.
Yep, I'll be 2, 4, 6 in here in the Alabama. Which so we look at we've talked a few times over the last couple months, and there were stakes races that you just kind of had to just kind of groan and say, okay, well, we really can't get past them. This weekend in the 2 big ones, it really does look like they're beatable. I wouldn't tell you to completely chuck both of them out, but I'm going to toss Swiss Skydiver. I think she's vulnerable, and I think they're both a little bit vulnerable. So that, as a bettor going into a pick 5 like that, win or lose, or even if they win, you feel much better about your ticket and your approach.
Yeah, it's just more exciting for me to even just to wake up when I'm
Absolutely.
against the favorite as opposed to being for it. I know some people love rooting for the big horses and feel more confident when they're singling those type of horses. I'd much rather get up and know that I'm in with a chance to, a chance where I feel like I can hit a big one as opposed to, the opposite.
100% rather be chucking them out. So we move to past the graded stakes race and then to race number 10, couple last two legs of the pick 5 sequence. So this one, they'll be going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. We have New York breds, non-twos, optional 40s. I guess I'll start with the 8 Royal Asset because I just think he's going to get a massive jock upgrade. You mentioned something like this earlier, and I think with Tyler jumping aboard compared to who he's had aboard in the last probably 5 races, I just feel like he's going to get a much better trip. He ran well in defeat last time out, and he was honestly, I feel like if Tyler was up, he probably ends up winning that race just a little bit better finishing down the lane. He was in a spot and then he kind of lost a little bit of ground in a length or two, and he was kind of start-stop too much with just a smoother, better, more relaxed trip. I think he's going to be good in here. I think he'll give you a good account of himself. I'd probably, the two, we always talk about Maker off the claim, and this is Maker on the claim back, and he's putting this one in a spot where he's protected, which I think, speaks a lot. Probably Maxwell Esquire. Those would be the 3 that I guess I sort of start with in here and probably look to build around in this race.
I am against Royal Asset on top. 1 for the last 15, 0 for 6 at Saratoga, 6 seconds and thirds. I thought last time I saw it a little differently. Granted, the start and stop, but he was handed that race when Bust and Shout, who was the horse that ended up winning, was on the lead. Got in a weird spot. The favorite, Dallas's Beach, who was behind Bust and Shout. Rod Ortiz, Jose Ortiz's brother, was on. Got in a tough spot. Rod Ortiz actually screamed. Jose stopped riding for a minute. And Royal Asset took the lead, and then Bust and Shout came back. I just think Royal Asset has lost his will to win. He's an 8-year-old gelding. I think he'll run his race. But it does look like there's quite a few horses in here that like to be on, right on the lead or right, it's not going to be real fast, but it should be contentious. You have Call Me Harry off the bench. You've got New York's Finest with Rod Ortiz and Rudy Rodriguez, 4 for 6 at Saratoga. That one is one I'll use. But out of the other horses I'm going to use, I am going to be on the other 2 that you like, Maxwell Esquire, Rosario, and Clement. This one, the rail never ideal for these 5.5 furlong turf sprints, but if anybody can work off that off the pace trip, it's Rosario. And then you mentioned Shiraz. That was a pretty impressive effort last time out, and you get like you said, the Maker reclaim 2 straight wins. Hard to leave this one off, Gino.
Yep. So yeah, I do think the 1 and 2 in here, we both kind of feel like they're must-use horses. I like the 8 a little bit more than you. I'm going to give him an opportunity and just hope that some of his poor efforts and those minor awards a few starts back were maybe because he just was not quite as well meant from a jock perspective. So yeah, this was I didn't love this race. I'll probably end up using a couple others on the ticket that I single to, maybe even New York's Finest with Irad jumping aboard. He might be able to either get this one right close to the lead or sit just off. He just, when he jumps aboard, he seems to be so good at figuring out the magic touch. So yeah, just not the strongest opinion any here. This will be like at least a 3, 4, or 5 spread out race for me that I'll be using in the 10th. Because when we moved to the 11th, man, I needed Brico last time out. Oh, gosh, in a couple different exotics. And he just was sitting a great trip, and he loomed up, and he just had no real excuses. He was in between horses, and he was still second. And, I mean, you look at this race, and he's absolutely a horse I'm going to use, and he's going to be right there again. But when you have a horse like this last time and you needed him, and I singled him against another short price favorite, and it was in a good spot, and just I hate coming back with him like this, but he'll be
awesome.
Right there. He'll be right there. I do think Brickyard is the interesting horse to throw in. And another one who I'm expecting to get a jock upgrade. He's going to go second off. He stretches out, 2 sprints to a route. So for me, I'm definitely going to be throwing him in with Brico. I'll throw a couple others in here. Who are some of the horses that stood out to you in this 11th?
Well, at 5-2 on the line, I've seen enough of Brico. I thought he should have won the last race. Operative
really should have. He should have.
Never hit the board in 3 starts going into that race. He should have outfinished that horse. I don't see, that was second start of the form cycle. I've seen enough to take a chance against him at that price. I think Brickyard, you mentioned at 15-1 on the line, is a must use. If you're spreading number one, Perfect Banker drops in class. You get Carmouche, should be prominently placed. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use Michael's Bad Boy. Comes out of an okay race, a maiden claiming 40. The second place starter runner had a number of chances, but did come back and dominate a maiden claiming 20 field. Mitch Ryan faced better today. Today being Thursday. Sorry about that. And then High Tone and Mommy's Jewel make some sense from the outside. You get two horses that look like they could battle each other, but when you have Joel Rosario and Gerardo Ortiz Jr., that's just not really what they do. I expect at least one of them to try to relax their horse. Maybe Perfect Banker even makes the lead. We've seen in these two-turn turf races in New York, the pace is often not as hot as we expect, and it benefits horses that are prominently placed. So I would probably use both of those just in case, Perfect Banker, Brickyard, and Michael's Bad Boy. But a very tough race. I'm going to take on the favorite and hope for the best. Hope I get there with some of these beaten favorites, and I can beat one more.
Yeah, and literally the 6 horses that we just discussed that you had mentioned, I'm going to probably use. And the reason, normally in a situation like this closing, when I'm spreading out, I would be tossing Brico too. I think because I'm not going to be using Swiss Skydiver, if I get to this point, I'd like to have him on my
peace
ticket.
Of mind.
And that's a lot of what it has to be. And in particular, because I'm going to be using horses along with and against Decorated Invader too. So if there's a situation where, hey, I get Mo home in the first and I can beat a couple heavy chalks, I definitely want to have all of the logical horses in this last spot. And I think they're the ones that you mentioned. It would be 1, Perfect Banker with some speed from the inside, the 3, Brickyard, the 4, Brico, the 6, Michael's Bad Boy, and then the speeds of Mommy's Jewel and High Tone. Could see either one of them getting the lead, or if Perfect Banker gets the lead, they could be sitting 2-3. They could all be very close. So, yeah, I'll be spreading, and I can do that because I'm going to go single right off the bat, and it'll just give you an opportunity to turn this thing into a pick 4. You're going to play against Swiss Skydiver. So when you know that, this ticket, if it's going to hit, it's going to play okay. I feel a little bit better if I have to spend a little bit extra on it because bigger investment, that's fine. I know it's going to come back bigger if it hits.
I mean, if what we just suggested comes through, it's going to be a good day because
yeah.
Bricko or no Bricko, being both morning line favorites in the stakes races, people are going to lean on them. Sure, Mo Reddy and Bricko could bring it down a little bit, and I understand the Mo Reddy single in there. I definitely think he's the likeliest winner. Not sure exactly how I'm going to approach the ticket, but I know I'm going to be hoping for no chalk all the way through, and when you get no chalk all the way through a pick 5, they pay massive no matter what the other results are.
Scott Shapiro, appreciate you jumping on each and every time we ask. We put out the bat signal. You're always there for us. Give the folks out there your plugs. Let us know what you're working on the next few days, and where can we find and hear from you, and let everybody know about the Who Do You Like podcast. You mentioned a guest earlier, but give us your plugs.
Yeah, Twitter's the best place to follow everything I'm doing at Scott Shap 34. Right now, I'm writing on both the Twin Spires and Bet America blogs for the next couple of weeks, mostly Saratoga stuff. We'll do a little Pacific Classic next week. The podcast that I host is the Who Do You Like podcast, mostly comes out on Thursdays. The new one came out this morning, Thursday morning. I had John Doyle from Optics EQ. Next week, I'll have Emily Gullikson from Optics EQ, a little double header. And you're having Emily, it sounds like, on this one, which is great. And, as we approach Kentucky Derby time and the Churchill Downs September meeting, I'll be on the Churchill Downs simulcast feed. You can get my picks every day of the Churchill Downs meeting on ChurchillDowns.com, along with my colleagues Joe Christofek and Ed DeRosa. And looking forward to the Derby. It's going to be weird, first Saturday in September, but we love this time of year here in Louisville. It's one of the best parts, if not the best part of living here. I've been here for a couple years, and looking forward to it and continue doing the great work, Gino.
Yeah, sometimes we'll agree, sometimes our opinions will be different, but it's always a blast. I always respect the work you put in. I appreciate the conversations, man. It's funny. It's like I'm starting to feel old now because you and I linked up really for the most part on social media and got in touch. And I remember coming down and doing a seminar with you at Del Mar, and then when we had our shows, we started coming on. But now it's definitely been a few years at least since we've been talking a good amount. So always appreciate talking with you, and it's a blast conversing about the races, man. You have a great weekend.
You too, bud. Thanks for having me.
That is Scott Shapiro. You heard all the ways you can follow along with Scott. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on That's What G Said. Thank you to our buddy Scott Shapiro for that Saratoga Saturday Pick 5 analysis. So, yeah, I'm looking at a couple of different tickets, and one of them, as I mentioned, I will be singling right off the bat in race number 7 with the 6, and I'll end up probably looking to spread out after that. And so, if you single right off the bat in race number 7 with Mo ready, and you turn the page to race number 8, it'll give you the opportunity to go a little deeper. I can go 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 in there. And then in race number 9, I'm going to be chucking Swiss Skydiver. I'm going to use Spice is Nice, Bonnie South, and the 6. Harvey's Little Goyle. It'll be 2, 4, 6 for me. I could be talked into using Crystal Ball. The approach is just going to be, I think Swiss Skydiver, as we mentioned with Scott, all the travel, now the distance, she faced the boys, she's been doing it every time, every different racetrack, and maybe Crystal Ball just is a nuisance to her, and Spice is Nice sits right behind. 2, 4, 6 for me there. Give us the opportunity to spread out, use, 1, 2, 4, 5, 8 in race number 10 there. 1, 2, 4, 5, 8 in a race that I don't really love, and then it'll give us the chance to close things out with 1, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9. And maybe I play a backup ticket where I come back and I single field pass on 1, and then I can go deeper in race number 7, and I can go something like 1, 5, 6, 7, 11 with 6, with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe you throw in Swiss Skydiver on that one, and you go 1, 2, 8, and 3, 4, 6, and shorten up. And that would be my backup ticket. But the one I like the most would be singling right off the bat with Mo ready, and then giving myself an opportunity to try and beat Swiss Skydiver and have a nice little ticket here. So good luck on Saturday over at Saratoga. Last week at Saratoga, we saw Tiz the Law win the Travers. He's going to be your heavy Kentucky Derby favorite, and they've got tons of different Tiz the Law t-shirts, hats, swag over at oldsmokeclothing.com. Are you a big horse racing fan? There aren't a bunch of stores in the mall we can just walk through, and we have tons of horse racing stuff at the sporting goods store. We can see all sorts of basketball, baseball, football, but we don't generally have tons of racing stuff out there unless you're at a gift shop at a local track. Well, check out oldsmokeclothing.com. T-shirts with horse names, polos, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, zip-ups, hats. They have, slogans of catchphrases, big races, nicknames for horses. They have custom designing there. Show the horse racing fan in you. When you use the promo code GINO, you'll get free shipping. So it'll give you a little added incentive if you're hearing what Old Smoke is, you've never checked it out before. Go give it a look. oldsmokeclothing.com. Show that horse racing fan in you. Use the promo code GINO for no shipping. From Saratoga over to Woodbine. We talk with Emily Gullikson from Optics EQ about the races at Woodbine. We go over all of the Woodbine Stakes races for Saturday. So get those past performances out for Saturday, August the 15th. We talk about race number 3 at Woodbine. Then we skip to race number 7 and we discuss races 7, 8, 9, and 10. So discussion of all 5 of those stakes races there at Woodbine on Saturday. Enjoy the conversation with Emily. We're in the middle of the summer racing calendar, so we're talking a lot of Saratoga, a lot of Del Mar, but this weekend we have a big weekend coming up at Woodbine, and one of our favorite people to talk horse racing with is Emily Gullikson from Optics EQ. And Emily, this works out very nicely because you cover Woodbine on a daily basis now. This is a really how long have you been covering Woodbine like almost daily? A couple years now?
At least 3 years. At least awesome. 3 years. Yeah. So and that's full seasons. I've watched every horse that's run in every single race, have a note for it. It's a really kind of different meet. It kind of suits my style as far as taking notes and handicapping the races. I really like it. I love the racing up at Woodbine.
So we have a really cool card this weekend. We're going to get the Woodbine Oaks. We're going to get the plate trial. And then we have a couple other graded stakes races where it's funny because if you're someone that doesn't look at Woodbine often, or you just check in here and there, it almost, it's like a different world. Really, you have so many horses up there that are just kind of staying up there, and you forget about them maybe because they're on their synthetic, or they've been running in grass races, but not in maybe the big, deep Grade 1 grass races down here. There are some quality animals, and one of the cooler horses in racing, Pink Lloyd, who we'll get to talk about in just a minute, like one of the better horses that nobody talks about. So I thought this card was really fun. I think there are some vulnerable favorites and some races that we can maybe take swings against one. And I actually think we're going to go through the stakes races. So if you're following along with the past performances, we're going to start with race number 3 on Saturday, August the 15th up at Woodbine, which is the Dance Smartly. And then we're going to move to races 7, 8, 9, and 10, which are the stakes races later in the card. So in the Dance Smartly, it's the Grade 2. They're going to be going 1.25 miles here. These are fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. We'd imagine Etoile from the inside for Chad Brown is going to take a ton of money. She came in for the Gamely back in May, and she really didn't just didn't really fire. I didn't see a ton of excuses. She probably wants to go a little bit longer. Maybe I thought she was a horse that I could play against. I don't need her in this spot.
Yeah, I actually saw it. Usually we see things like almost eye to eye. So this is like going to be like maybe the first time that we're going to kind of see it a little bit different.
Nice.
So cool. I know, a rare occasion. Yeah, I thought going into the Gamely, Santa Anita is another one of the tracks that I follow. Going into the Gamely, I thought that she really, she stood out as far as her class from overseas, and naturally was the favorite that day, as she should have been. And I don't think she got the trip that she needed. She took some contact early and shuffled back after the start, and she just raced inside and well off the pace. She showed some late run, but over that course at that period of time, that type of trip was just not winning at Santa Anita. So I know it's looking like, there's not that much of an excuse, but there is one that was just kind of built in. And you just see how the way that race played out. It was just against her. Bodicita came back and has won since a couple times, I believe, most recent.
Sometimes that's a Joel thing too, right? He
does
like to take horses a little too far back with some of the deep closers, because I think he gets confident in his ability to close and to finish, and sometimes he gets a little too confident in it.
Right, and I think a lot of it was situational, that she can come off the pace, but she doesn't need to be that far back. And that early trouble, and I think just him not riding there at Santa Anita that much during that period of time, he was pretty much at Oaklawn primarily, just not really understanding that turf course to where you really did need to be somewhat forwardly placed, and closing was just not happening. So yeah, I think that there was just kind of a combination of factors to where she could definitely rebound from that, and she has the class. And I think, in this spot, if she doesn't win, it's really anybody else. It's really hard for me to kind of go through and separate the other runners.
For me, the two that I would use and I would look towards and maybe just play who was the better price of the two would be between Romantic Pursuit and Elizabeth Way. I don't know if Elizabeth Way really wants to go quite this far. Romantic Pursuit is interesting to me a little bit, this filly. So last time out, she chased Lone Speed. She was the only horse who really made up any ground at all. The top two were basically 1-2 all the way around. And then 2 starts back, she was in a race at Churchill Downs on June the 6th. The winner of that day, Gentle Ruler, won next out, and that horse has won 8 of the last 10, including 2 graded stakes. Vexatious was in that race, who came back to finish second in the Ruffian behind Monomoy Girl, and then won the Personal Ensign, beating Midnight Bisou. The fourth place finisher came back to win a stakes race at Ellis. So I think that was just a pretty strong race in general that Pursuit is coming out of, and I feel like she's kind of similar to Etoile. I just don't think she needs to be nearly as far back as she was last time out. I just don't know what this pace is going to look like. Who do you have, or some of the optics projections have up front early?
Yeah, it's kind of a different pace scenario to where there's not a whole lot of difference. This distance obviously kind of changes things, but in terms of having kind of early speed, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are really similar, like in terms of like their speed and their running style. So it'll be kind of a jockey's race in terms of, where they kind of position. But, they should, in some sense of pace, should be honest enough, right?
Because you said, you could see it going, just like you said, where maybe everyone's looking and going, okay, there's not that much speed, but there are a bunch of pressing types. Maybe the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all are putting each other in a like a not comfortable spot, and then Etoile is able to just track nicely from behind and swoop him. That could
right. I mean, I would imagine, Elizabeth Way, just watching Emma over this course, I mean, she's been probably the most effective throughout this meet, putting horses on the lead. And so she's kind of giving herself that name or that kind of recognition as far as having that style. And it worked out last time out. So I think they'll go the same way. And then again, you kind of everybody else that wants to be 1 or 2 lengths off that pace, which, can make it kind of quick when they all sort of have that style.
Yeah, we generally look for the ones in the past performances all the time, but it's not always that easy, right?
Correct.
Sometimes it's the pressers that they all get caught up and they're in a pace that they don't really want instead of able to track a little bit. When horses are asked to do things they don't want or they don't normally do, that's when it will kind of fall apart or we'll see something kind of weird happen. And yeah, that may be the case here. This is a fun race. You have to definitely start and look with Etoile and how you're going to play this race from a wagering standpoint. But if you want to take a shot there, a couple others that you can maybe think could get a tactical advantage and maybe get the jump on Etoile. So we'll skip from race 3 to later on in the card where the graded stakes pick back up, and that is in race number 7 with the grade 3 Bold Venture. In this race, Emily, this is one of the cooler horses in training that we very rarely hear about. This is a 7-time graded stakes winner, a horse who is 24 for 29, has run all 29 races up at Woodbine on the synthetic, and has 21 stakes wins. This is a horse who's earned $1.4 million. That is Pink Lloyd here, who just a really cool horse. You look down and you just see a horse who always shows up. They know where this guy fits. They know his niche. He wants to sprint, go from 6 to 7 furlongs. They don't try to get cute and stretch him out. You wonder sometimes, because he's been so successful, if maybe it would be worth taking a shot on dirt, or maybe even in a Breeders' Cup situation or a prep against better. But we want to get greedy and we want to tell people what to do with their horses, but they've done a great job with this guy. He just keeps winning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think placement has been the key with him. And again, I mean, it's funny you mentioned like his record, but this is kind of the one race that stymied him the last 2 years. He had an excuse when he broke through the gate in 2018, and then last time out broke slow and kind of was in a tangle and ended up being, declared a non-starter. So I think in some ways, this is sort of a race that they want some redemption in, but also at the same time, it comes up, tougher. This is just sort of what we've seen Pink Lloyd in the past, where he gets away from the overnight stakes or the smaller fields and has to get tested. And again, we talk about pace in race number 3. I mean, the pace in here, I went through this race so much, and eventually I just kind of like gave up trying to decipher the pace because it's inscrutable. You don't have any E or EP type runners. So, I don't know who's going to make the lead. If it turns out to be Pink Lloyd, he could be vulnerable. That's not really a trip that he wants. He kind of likes to stalk. That's just how he does things. But he's quick enough that it just might sort of like, he might just have to fall in the lead. In Malibu Secret, you would think maybe they would try to do that. A couple of these other horses, Magical Man, you think probably his best bet would be to send, but both those horses, like, they don't have to. So it comes down to like, who is going to make the lead? And then the picture is just sort of like, it's so muddied after that. Like I could sort of make a case for all of these horses. I mean, obviously Pink Lloyd, like, wouldn't be any surprise, but it's going to be a super short price. So after kind of giving up in terms of pace, I just went back to like, all right, who's in form? Who's got the speed figures? Who's got the class to kind of compete at this level? And ended up landing on Olympic Runner. It's a horse I followed, obviously the last season. Here at Woodbine, ran really great races. And even coming back this season, sneaky well, coming off the layoff around 2 turns. That was a better than look race, came closing against the headwind that day on a pace-setting rival. And then last time out, just kind of moved wide a little bit early. So I just think he's coming into this race the right way and having a pathetic race. And, again, it's another race. Like in race 3, I mean, you could, there's not a lot that separates these horses. And so that's just sort of where I'm landing. But it's hard. It was hard for me with this race to have a lot of confidence kind of overall.
Yeah, I think that would be my other horse. If you're trying to beat Pink Floyd, there would be 2 for me, and I think they would be kind of the next logical 2. It would be Olympic Runner, who's getting back to the synthetic, and I just think I use White Flag as the total wild card in here as the horse who at least I think has the class to compete with Pink Floyd. and I can look through some of his races and build some excuses. So he's going to try the synthetic for the first time. Last time out, he had a good start, but then he got outrun a little bit. It was in a turf sprint where they went pretty quick. They went 43 and change to the half mile. Then he just got outrun after that good start. He was back to last on the inside, about 7-8 lengths off, and he kept inside. He ended up just missing fourth. It wasn't bad since it was his first try in 9 months, and it was probably against a better overall group than he's going to be facing in this spot. If you toss the September 7th race at Kentucky, it's one of those weird tracks. Some horses like it, some don't, and that was a race that was sandwiched by a couple layoffs. I think he's maybe the other horse from the outside. I don't have any concerns about 6.5 for him. It's just, how is he going to take to the Ship? How is he going to take to the synthetic? And it doesn't hurt that the Clement Bond has been really rolling over at Saratoga and sending out, tons and tons of live horses. I would prefer a little bit more than 3-1. I would like the price on Olympic Runner on White Flag. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to get that because I think they're probably the two other logical horses other than Pink Floyd. But yeah, if you're looking to beat the favorite, I think we do have a couple swings you could take here in the 7th.
One thing, a couple things I'll mention about White Flag. So he was entered on July 11th to run at a 7 furlong in the Grade 2 Connaught Cup. I'm sure I'm butch. Thank you. Connaught Cup. And was a Stewart Scratch. So this spot here is sort of like their second option, right? Because that he wasn't able to run that day. So they're just kind of running here because, he needs a race and he needs to run. So there's kind of that concern just in terms of like intention, right? Obviously, sure. This being a second choice. And then the other issue that, again, I was going through this and really trying to understand pace was, what kind of trip is he going to get? Because he's drawn outside and, maybe he has some speed coming out of those shorter races and from the turf. So being on the outside post, you kind of have one of two options. It's like, you've got to go and get into the race, right? Otherwise you're going to get kind of maybe caught wide. So perhaps that's a tactic, but I almost feel like Contreras is going to take back, and because he's on the outside, which means he's going to give up a lot of ground early. And then maybe it's just too much ground because we don't have, a lot of pace setters in here. So I had those two kind of reservations with him. And again, being a short price and just, those types of things. But again, I don't think there's any horse in this field. I mean, a couple of them are a little bit soft, but none of them would overly surprise in here because it's just one of those types of races. Yeah,
because we could see weird trips happening.
Right,
in this
exactly,
race, and that's what makes it difficult. Just like you said, White Flag wouldn't shock if they wanted to get a little bit aggressive, but I could absolutely see them getting caught with that in-between trip where you don't take back far enough, but you don't go far enough, and then you're just caught floating wide all the way around, and that's not a beneficial trip on the grass ever. So, yeah, these first two races in particular, and that tends to happen a lot of times. The first race we talked about was grass, but this is synthetic. We see it up at Golden Gate sometimes where we just get these races that turn into these turfy races and we don't get a ton of early pace, and then things can really get weird. That happened a lot in the synthetic era in Southern California at Keeneland, all over the place. And that's what definitely adds a wrinkle, and sometimes as a handicapper it's a little more fun but a little more challenging, at places like Woodbine. So really cool horse, Pink Lloyd, in race number 7, looking for career win 25. But as Emily mentioned, this is a race that has not been the easiest one for him through the years. Let's get to race number 8. It is the plate trial. These are the 3-year-olds, Canadian foal. They're going to be going 1 mile and an eighth in here. And I mean, again, this race I think has at least a couple horses we can imagine that'll be on the pace, but no real I'm going to be sending. My game plan is always go to the lead. Halo, again, was pretty close when he was pressing, going 7 furlongs last time out. Clayton hasn't done very much wrong in his career, and we'd imagine that he's probably going to be tracking pretty close. We've seen some speed sometimes from dotted line, but he hasn't showed it his last few. Stein can get aggressive here and there, but from a how do we look at this race and start, I think you probably have to start with those two in the middle of the field, Clayton and Halo again.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're right. I mean, it's pace. I would imagine, I mean, we had sort of a gate issue at the Queenston and slow in the Marine for dotted line. I imagine that they're going to try to be a pace setter in here. I mean, it just, regardless, even if they break slow, I think they're going to have to send, and they were just kind of against the flow after that slow start last time. And then Clayton's going to, Clayton and Halo again, both kind of tracking from that position, keeping the pace honest. It's hard to know sort of like where I would imagine Glorious Tribute doesn't really have a lot of early speed. Northern Thunder, they're both kind of outsiders. Yeah, I mean, Elusive Knight, he's the horse that's kind of the most interesting to me. I sort of saw this race as sort of Clayton, Halo Again, and Elusive Knight all sort of being like the three horses that kind of stand out in here. Dotted Line, people can make the case as well. Just I couldn't quite get there. But in terms of, Elusive Knight, he comes out of the same race as Clayton. Clayton had just a really ideal trip just in terms of like the handling was perfection by Hernandez that day, covered up, made first move. And the trip was completely the opposite with Elusive Knight. I mean, he broke slow. He had to move early, caught in trouble, and then had to move late. He just showed a lot of run and like the type of horse at this time of year, that's a trip that he could move forward from experience-wise. So I just that spot, but again, it's one of those races that kind of have to just take a stand with one of the three. I couldn't put a ticket together spreading with all three of them, so that's just my style of play to where I just prefer to take a stand.
Yeah, and I can envision this race where maybe Clayton and Halo Again and Dotted, same type of thing where there's not really gun speed on paper, but if Dotted Line gets a little bit aggressive and then the two horses that are the horses to beat, or even if it's just those two, Clayton and Halo Again, and they're getting aggressive thinking that they're probably, a likely winner of this race and they go head and head, then it really will set up for Elusive Knight, who should have no problem with the distance, can run all day. He's super honest. He's just been really unlucky. He's been in spots that he just had really no chance, and he continues to keep running. So he was 8+ lengths clear of the third place finisher last time out when he was 3 behind Clayton. So he does have to improve a couple lengths on Kershaw here. I had to throw in a Dodger reference for Clayton. And then Halo Again, who he was a horse who he won his first couple. And what's nice about Halo Again is that he's proven going 1 1/8 over this track, and he's got that really nice stalking style where he can kind of put himself into the race and make any trip. So I agree with you in that it feels like those three are a cut above, and maybe we can find a way to make cases for Elusive Knight if we can see these horses, like as far as a distance horse, he's probably better suited than Clayton or even Halo Again.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think there's a lot more upside and kind of foundation there, but we'll see, because he does need to get back to winning a race and not just finishing second.
Okay, we've had no pace in, I think, the first 3 races that we've talked about. On paper, at least to me, it feels like the 9th race, the King Edward, is going to be a lot different, because you look and you have Mr. Ritz, who is pretty close to the lead or on it most of the time. You have Silent Poet, who's very quick. You have Admiralty Pier, who's really quick. I would not be shocked to see Eskiminzin be really close to the lead, because all of his wins have been at less than a mile, 7.5 furlongs as the farthest, and he sits really, really close. Even a horse like Argentello isn't as quick as the others, but he showed some speed last time out. If they wanted to get aggressive with him, it wouldn't be a shock. To me, this feels like a race that has a lot of early pace.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny because I wrote up all races for Woodbine, the hashtag #BetWoodbineTB, and I actually made that comparison just as far as being like we had no pace and now we have tons of pace. So I see it the same way, and race to kind of set up for a horse from off the pace, which again, I mean, I think is probably pretty obvious that a lot of people will kind of navigate towards March to the Arch. Yep. Is that sort of where you went?
Exactly where I am. Yep.
Yeah, because it seems obvious. I mean, he's got the class, he's kind of got that running style.
Built-in excuse or two. Yeah.
Absolutely. He hasn't spent a lot of time at Woodbine, which is interesting because, Cassie has a lot of horses here. So obviously he has some positive intent to be able to run out of town, run at Saratoga, Churchill, Gulfstream, all those places. But he does have a win over this course. At 9 furlongs, but again, that's still kind of that one turn, winning the Toronto Cup in 2018. So I think he fits in here as just kind of a pretty logical type horse all around and likely to get a trip.
Yeah, I mean, he was behind Factor This last time out, and Factor This has won 4 in a row. That's big speed. He's won 3 graded stakes, and the horse who was 4th that day was Aquaphobia, who came back to win the Grade 1 United Nations. And then the May 25th race in the Shoemaker, he was behind 3 next out graded stakes winners. War of Will was in there, who won a grade 1 next out. Neptune Storm was in there, who won a grade 3 next out. Blitzkrieg was in there, who won a grade 3 next out. He just had a wide trip, and he had absolutely no shot. This is just a much better spot on paper for him. And then you look to some of the other horses who have speed. I'm kind of looking for a horse who maybe can get the jump on March to the Arch also, and maybe sit in front of him. Would that be a horse like Delaware to the outside? Or what do we do with Dreammaker, who, I don't know if he's good enough in a spot like this. He was a horse who had a ton of reputation. He was very highly regarded in his career. He crushed in his debut, and then he was only 5-1 and 5-2 in back-to-back grade 1 races. He had some trouble. Came back at the start of his 3-year-old season, put up a monster effort, and then he kind of put himself back into the Derby trail, but then he was disappointing in 3 consecutive starts. But he ran into Tacitus, Vekoma, who have come back and run well. He needed his last start. He's got an amazing turf pedigree, and it's not like he's going to be a horse where we have to worry about him being overbet in here. It's just, is he good enough to compete with these?
Yeah, I used him, and I wrote him up as well because for all those reasons. I mean, he's such a wild card. I mean, last time out, I think the public made a mistake making him the favorite because he's coming back off the layoff and he was doing something he'd never done. And I know he had those races, but it was just one of those times where I guess it's arguably made a mistake. But and the effort itself, I mean, he lugged out around the turn. And there's things that like you didn't want to see. I mean, even if he didn't win. But I think this spot is interesting because they're going to come back to the one turn, and that just might be kind of the key with him, getting that type of distance. And again, it's not going to be the short price it was last time, and so I'm going to use him. And I mean, kind of the same thing. Delaware fits as well in terms of running style. This is a 1-turn mile. He's coming out of those 7 furlong races at Belmont, improving with each start. This is kind of a jump up, but his numbers from those Belmont races stacked right up with this field. So he's right on par. So yeah, I saw it kind of the same as you, where March to the Arch is quite kind of the logical quote unquote horse to beat in here. But I would definitely spread with Dreammaker and Delaware.
Yeah, with Dreammaker too, I feel like he's going to get a ton out of that last race. I didn't really love the way he was handled either. It was weird. He seemed to be they were going 1 1/8 miles, and instead of just, getting aggressive or just letting the horse run, it seemed like they were trying to kind of save a lot for late, and he just didn't really have anything late. You mentioned started lugging out and was just a little tired. I would have preferred to see them kind of let him loose in a situation like that. And in here, he might be able to just save ground from the inside. And I mean, this is his first time turf. 4 of his 5 siblings won on the turf for a combined $693,000. They had 10 victories. He's a full brother to the grade 1 winner, multiple graded stakes winner on the grass, Dream Dancing. So should step forward on here, and I think he's going to be in a good spot. And the key to horses like this are always price. Like I don't ever mind taking shots on wild card horses like this, or Hidden Scroll is one that comes to mind. If he's 5-1 or over, I'm fine with that. I just don't want any part of those horses when they're 8-5.
Right. And then I think I'm glad that you brought up the trip last time out, because it was like he made the lead and took pressure by default. So I don't think it was something that they wanted to do.
Yep.
But I also wonder too, because Wilson's taking over and mentioning just how aggressive she is. Wondering if maybe they are going to try to do that today. But again, there's so many, you're getting so much compensation in terms of price. And also mentioning his stablemate won the race that day, which is important to note. Where it's worth kind of taking that stab, as you mentioned, being the wild card, you're going to get the compensation on the board.
Yeah, and with the two, that's a great point too. With Dreammaker being a Cassie, that will complement March to the Arch's running style. So maybe even a horse that's in here to not necessarily to not run his race, but to help put some honest pace in there to at least set up for March to the Arch. So maybe a little bit of both.
And last week or 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago. There was a race like this that looked like it had tons of speed on it, and Cassie had 3 horses, and he had one that was entered that looked to be the total pace setter in the race, and went out, did that, was the pace setter in the race, and nobody else went. And then the horse wiring the field and winning. So it's you never know. He won with a rabbit last week. Maybe, lightning will strike twice.
Absolutely. So it's Dreammaker, total wild card in the King Edward, but definitely a horse that we both like with March to the Arch as a very logical horse who should really trip out in here in the ninth race at Woodbine. We move to the Oaks, the Woodbine Oaks, $500,000 purse, 3-year-old fillies, Canadian bred. They're going to be going the mile and an eighth in here. And I mean, again, just like starting from the inside with Curlin's Voyage, she's super honest. She really shows up and runs really well. She just got up on the wire last time out. She's going to go third off the bench. She's going to stretch out. She has 3 wins going a mile and a 16th, so the mile and an eighth really shouldn't be any problem, especially with her pedigree. She should save ground. She should get a trip, and I think sort of like in the ninth race, the first 3 races we talked about had no pace. This one seems to at least have what should be an honest pace with, maiden like Pilot Episode stretching out. Bayou Bell, they've basically said Bayou Bell is in here to be a rabbit. I've read the connections that were quoted as saying that. With November Fog, you're probably not going to be too far out of it. You have Lasting Union, who's going to be pretty close in here. Just Leave It Alone has shown speed in the last few. Infinite Patience is probably going to be right on it. And I think with a lot of those speed horses, we have question marks about not only what the pace will be like, but if they really want to get a mile and an eighth.
Right. And again, for all the reasons that you mentioned, I mean, Curlin's Voyage to me, she looks solid. She's like a kind of key horse in here because there's not much to knock. She has the class, she has the experience. She's coming into the race the right way. I mean, Carol did this last year, the same type of pattern, 2 sprints to a route, really saw her go forward. So all those things, I mean, she looks to me like the horse to beat. Now, I know Lasting Union is actually the morning line favorite. It'll be interesting to see whether that happens or not. But and I like Lasting Union a lot. I mean, her last 2 races were super impressive. And I think that she's turned a corner with the change in the running style because she had some excuses for the first 3 races down at Gulfstream Park. And since they put her on the lead, it's like that's what she wants to do. So it's hard for me to see them change tactics here. It's like we have a horse that has natural speed. She's been really good on the front end. She's been able to hold horses off when she's on the front end. So again, I do like her, but again, we talk about the pace, that there does look to be contention in there, and how she handles that. She'll have to handle it in order to get the trip and win. So that just kind of gives a little bit more of a push to Curlin's Voyage over in terms of trip.
Yeah, I mean, she sat. She was impressive. I mean, she's been really impressive. She got the lead, and then she just kind of sat in the 2 path, basically on even terms with Annika Gold, and she put that one away, and she drew off. And then that one who finished second, Annika Gold, came right back to beat First Level Allowance Company, and she's no slouch. She's won 3 of her last 4. And again, we're talking about races against Open Company, and this is not older. A drop in class, but yeah, older and Open Company, but now we're facing restricted 3-year-olds, and that was something that I looked at and that I liked with the one horse who I sort of treat as a real wild card in here as a Fleet Catherine. And then I'm going to throw her in a couple different spots. I like that she's beaten older in both. I mean, it's kind of deceiving because in her first race there was nobody older; it was all 3-year-olds. But she did beat older last time out. The second and third place finishers were actually 5-year-olds. She was on the grass. Both of her wins have been on the grass, going 7 furlongs, and so she's going a mile and an eighth on the synthetic now. Completely different story. So we have total question marks, but she's going to be a price. What I like is that she did not look like she was going to win last race. She was 4 deep mid-pack. She was like 6th or 7th, 4 off the pace. She got shuffled back a little bit in between horses. And early in the stretch, she did not look like she was going to win. There were horses on the inside and the outside of her that seemed like they were traveling better. But she just got determined in between horses, and it feels like she's just getting going distance-wise visually when you watch her. So that's not always something that happens where you watch a late-running sprinter and then they just, stretch out nicely to a mile and an eighth and they get a little more speed like you would imagine. But I think that at a price, if she's double-digit odds in here, I'm willing to take a swing. She's got a couple siblings who've won over the synthetic, and siblings that have won on the turf, dirt, and synthetic. So I don't have any issue with the surface or anything here. I just think as a wild card, she's a little bit interesting. Let's see. So what do you do with Mervaloo in here? Put in the blinkers on.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know quite why they're going to put the blinkers on. I mean, again, following all of her races, and just sort of the one thing, I thought she was a little bit vulnerable last time out, just in terms of trip, and had a lot of really favorable setups with the perfect trip coming back this year. And then I just, again, it was like one of those, that was the race I was talking about, the Celine Stakes, that it was, looked like a lot of pace on paper and then just didn't work out that way as the one cast wide the field. But it looked like she was going to kind of get wide chasing and ended up doing that. The track was tough to make up ground of her. I thought her effort was good, all things considered with the race shape. So I don't know with the intention of the blinkers, whether they want to have her more forwardly placed. And if that's the case, again, she might get that kind of wide trip where she's up close, chasing close to the pace. Not impossible, but her 2 wins have been in perfect scenarios. And she's to me, it's like she's got to prove that she can kind of overcome that type of adversity. But, Fitz, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise. It just kind of seems like one of those that people will try to get cute with and could end up being a little bit of an underlay. 4-1. So, I mean, even 4-1 seems a little bit short, and that's in the morning line.
Yeah, I agree. What about the outside 2 horses? Any thoughts on either Just Leave It Alone, who, I got to say, the last couple starts, since changing barns and since coming up to Woodbine, it was, if you backed this one last time out, it was 2 starts back behind Curlin's Voyage when she was 65-1. It was a pretty sick beat. I mean, she just got nailed late. It did not look like Curlin's Voyage was ever going to get up. She dug in deep. She was in between horses, and then she stretched back out to a mile and an eighth and won. I like what she's doing recently. I like that she seems like she's turned a corner and maybe improved a little bit, and maybe it's the synthetic, maybe a little less competition, whatever the reason be. I just don't know if this race shapes up all that well for her. If she can sit sort of like she did last time, but I think she might have just been able to do that against inferior competition.
Right. And also, I mean, she backed up a little bit in terms of speed figures. I know that she won, but that's just something that's a little bit concerning just in terms of distance, because that effort last time out is not going to cut it against this field. I think that, she did kind of, for whatever reason, the blinkers going on, the barn change, being out in front, kind of getting that trip again, 6-horse field. That was sort of the day for her, and it's hard to even see a move forward kind of off that Fury effort. So the fact that she kind of backed up last time out, again, that just kind of is sometimes a testament to class. Again, I'm looking at optics figures. So she ran an 87 in the Fury, which was the highest figure, and she backed up to an 81 last time out, which is a little bit more consistent with her numbers in the past. So that could just be a class factor where it's like a lot of these horses, they may be consistently running 87s and then popping 90s here and there, to where, like, for her, she needs her absolute best, and then it still might be a cut below. But again, I mean, I think they've got to kind of send and go from the outside post and her run style to even just, probably get a share, right? I mean, that's kind of all you'd have to hope for, is just to kind of get in with a share. So you'd have to use her speed and let her go. And the same thing, with the outside horse. I mean, they've got to go from that post as well. And at this distance, I don't think there's any option otherwise.
Yeah. And so, I'm looking, for me, it's just hard to leave Curlin's Voyage out of exotics, because she feels like she's the most solid, consistent, going to save all the ground from the inside. We have some question marks about the others with maybe the way this race will shape up, or the running style, or if they're going to get hooked wide, things like that. I think we have the least amount of questions about Curlin's Voyage in here.
Yeah, she's kind of the way I'm going to kind of anchor this race around, just to, be for all those reasons. And then again, I wanted to use the 8, but the price is just, it's so short, but we'll see if I do that. But pretty much most of the action will be around Curlin's Voyage. I'm
gonna flop the maiden into some exotics, just into some tries and some supers and stuff, and maybe, I don't know why I keep wanting to really make a case for this horse, and maybe it's just because, you see a race like this, and you see Pilot Episode, and then she comes into a stakes race, and I think a lot of people will see, it's the Woodbine because it's 500,000. But remember, this isn't like a grade 1 race against Open Company. This is still a restricted race, and she's actually faced Open Company and some pretty good horses through her races, but she it's just so many question marks. It's like I don't know why she's in here, and instead of making me want to knock her, it makes me want to like find a way to include her in here, because she's never been on a synthetic track. She's never been past 7 furlongs. It just seems like such a weird spot to show up in. I have no idea how good she is, but I'm going to try to flop her under the bottom of some of my tickets, just because I can't. I'm just sort of infatuated with this spot that she's in.
Yeah, I think this is sort of one of the times where like the owners are sort of making this decision,
Yep.
and she's not. And
could be, yeah.
yeah, because they're local. She's Ontario bred. I think she has a sibling actually running in one of the other stakes races. So I think it's one of those dictating. The placement and again, I mean, she's good. Like, she's run some good races. She's run races that are fast. But again, I mean, I just think in terms of a tent, I mean, Shug, obviously, he could stretch a horse out. It just kind of seems like they haven't really wanted to for some reason in keeping her at that one turn. But I mean, I couldn't fault anybody that just felt like, I don't really trust, Curlin's Voyage, or I don't want to take a short price. And those types of things. And you're looking for another horse. She fits just as well as any other horse in this field. So I wouldn't. It'd be hard for me to say, like, don't use her in
at
this
a big
spot
price. Because she's going to be a big price too. And I'm not saying single her in exotics or anything, but a horse to maybe flop into some of your exotics, throw in on the back end of one small pick 4 or 5, or really use to try to get into 3rd, 4th spots. Because I think what you said, I think the connections would be ecstatic with hitting the board here. This would be a great spot for them to hit the board, and that could really spice up a try if you're that kind of a player.
Yeah, I don't think they really have anything to lose at this point by running her here, right? Because It's like, you've been running against Open, she's been favored a couple times and come up short, and it's just like, why not run here? She's doing well. She's got the bullet drill, working at Saratoga, second off, there's things that are positive that it's like, why not? If you finish last, like, what difference is it really going to make? But changing things up and taking a shot, it certainly makes sense. And again, she has speed figures that fit right on the level of a lot of the other horses, so she's not that much of an outsider.
If you are one of the horse players out there that has been focusing a lot on Del Mar, Saratoga for the summer meets, I would really recommend taking a look at the Woodbine card this weekend. You can listen in for the analysis we gave you for the stakes races. You can follow along with Emily. She'll give you the information in just a minute, and she can give you some additional help there with the Woodbine card if you need. I enjoyed handicapping this card, and you know what? When we handicap so many cards, a lot of the time we enjoy doing it. We love doing it, but sometimes it's work, and you're getting through it. This one felt fun. I really enjoyed it. There were some nice horses, some fun horses to maybe take swings against. There are a couple races that have no pace, then a couple races that look like they have a ton of pace. So as a handicapper, I had a lot of fun kind of figuring out these puzzles.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the same thing. I went through, I don't have to write up all the stakes races for Woodbine. I only have to do one. That's sort of like, my contract or whatever. But I had the same thing. I ended up writing them all because I'm like, I'm doing them, and they're just, it just kind of flows. So nice. I'm looking forward to this day.
And so let us know, where can we find you online, and what do you have coming in the next few days? And kind of give us all. You're still doing Southern California selections, some stuff for Indiana Grand too. Give us everything, the rundown.
Correct. Yeah, these are my 3 tracks. Woodbine, Southern California, so currently Del Mar and Indiana Grand. Full card selections for Del Mar and Indiana Grand at brisnet.com. Woodbine selections are on woodbine.com. I tweet those out at Emily Optics EQ. Also, a race of the day at Optics EQ. Strongly recommend. That's free every day. You just log in. We always kind of put in a lot of bonus stuff, so make sure you check that out. And then I don't know when your show is airing, but Thursday night, so tonight. But if people get this too late, every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. on the West, Woodbine Live, we handicap live and play the last 3 races on the card, and then some standard action as well.
Awesome stuff, Emily. So yeah, I'll link back up with you. I'd love to get you back on. We didn't talk any Del Mar, so maybe closing weekend or in a few weeks, some of the last couple cards we can try to get a big score at Del Mar before things end over there.
Absolutely. I really enjoy handicapping with you. I wish we would do it more. So
I know I do too.
Please invite me on.
I would love it too. I really, you're honestly, I'm no bullshit. You're literally one of my favorite people to talk to with racing. It seems like we have similar approaches, but even if we don't, I really respect the work that you've put in, and it always makes me take a second look at horses that I'm not including, which I think that's why we all handicap, right? I don't really, when I put my information out there, I'm sure there are some, but I don't think a lot of people are playing every single horse, every single race, exact ticket verbatim. For me, I like listening to smart people, sharp people that I trust and say, oh, you know what? Emily mentioned a 10-1 horse in that race that I didn't really look at. Like, that's the horse I'm going to throw in. That's how I want my show to be a lot. I just want it to be a compliment for people to help them maybe find a horse that they wouldn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. The way I do the daily selections is like that as well. I try to write it up in a way that, like, you have a friend there handicapping with you. It's not me saying, I love this horse and it's all about me. It's like, here's the information. Here's kind of the way I see it. Process it, read it, understand why I like a horse, dislike a horse, think a price should be this, this and that, to just kind of have another opinion, another person in the room to talk races with.
Emily Gullikson, one of the best handicappers out there. Always have a blast talking with you, Emily. Have a great weekend, and let's link back up in a few weeks.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and then we will be right back here on That's What G Said. Always love catching up with Emily and talking racing with her. So just a quick recap for me. In the third at Woodbine, it's Romantic Pursuit. That's the horse. It's probably Romantic Pursuit and Elizabeth Way, but I prefer Romantic Pursuit a little bit more in race number 7. I think if you're taking a shot against Pink Lloyd, it might be White Flag. I just don't want shorter than that 3-1 or so on White Flag. So if White Flag ends up getting bet down and it's 5-2 or even shorter, that just seems a little short for a horse who's a wild card. I don't want to take a really short price on a wild card. 7-2 would be great. In race number 8, I can't really get too cute in here. I kind of agreed. Like, Elusive Knight feels like the upside horse, but Clayton and Halo again are going to be pretty tough. So, very logical for me in here. I couldn't really make a case for any of the other big prices. I would probably just use, Clayton Halo again and maybe Elusive Knight if you're playing some sort of exotics. And then in race number 9, I would look to the March to the Arch, would absolutely be my top selection in here. Dreammaker would be the other wild card to include, and Delaware would be the third. So I'd be using March to the Arch, Dreammaker, and Delaware, maybe Argentello. I could be talked into Argentello based on the trip that he may be able to sit in there. And then in race number 10, throw a Fleet Catherine into some of your exotics. The Lasting Union's going to be very tough. Curlin's Voyage, there are no knocks, and I'm going to include the Maiden Pilot episode at the bottom of some exotics also. I like this Saturday card up at Woodbine. It was a lot of fun talking some Woodbine with Emily. I used to, for a while, I looked at Woodbine every single day, and back at TBG, I was looking at Woodbine. I love the Woodbine Wednesdays that they would have with the late evening post, so it's always fun and nostalgic to be able to sit down and really dig my heels in and look at a card like we did this week at Woodbine with Emily. So thanks again to Emily. Make sure to follow her on all the social media spots that she mentioned and online, and we'll be talking with her hopefully for Del Mar closing week in just a few. And I just had one play at Saturday at Del Mar, because the focus for me was more Saratoga, was more Woodbine. When I went through and a lot of it was because when I went through the Del Mar card, I just didn't love it. I really didn't. And the one race that I will give a look to is the Solana Beach in race number 9, and I'm gonna go to Pulpit Rider in here. Pulpit Rider, last we saw her, was sitting fourth. She was too deep. She didn't seem to be traveling great, though. She just kind of grinded around. She angled out 4 wide. She was up late for third. That was against Open Company. I think that was just a group that was better. She's been very, very competitive and she looks very capable in a spot like this where, look at all of the Calbred races. She's always right there. She always shows up. She's very consistent. She just doesn't win a whole ton. I like this third off the long layoff. She should be set for best coming back in against Calbreds after facing Open Company. That's going to be the only play for Saturday Del Mar for me. I'll have more fun playing the races at Woodbine and at Saratoga that I just seemed to have more of a strong opinion about. A heavy horse racing episode. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and then following the little commercial break, we're going to talk all about the Derby, the Kentucky Derby. The field is basically set. There's one more prep race coming up this weekend, and there might be a couple horses that come out of that race that will fill the field, but we are not going to get a field of 20 this year. It sure does not look that way. There have only been 16 or 17 horses that are committed to run. We've had a bunch off the points list in the last few days say that they are not going to run in the Derby. They're not even thinking about doing it. So Ryan Dickey joins me, and we go through all the news. We go horse by horse, starting with Tis the Law, basically through 25 or so horses on the points list, what their plans are, what their resume looks like. It's a really good in-depth conversation all about these 3-year-olds who are pointing to the Kentucky Derby in the first Saturday in September. Doesn't that sound weird? So hear from a sponsor, and then time to talk with Ryan Dickey about the Derby. One of the sponsors of That's What G Said podcast is Cindy Carava, full-service realtor, and I am here over in Glendora at Coldwell Banker with Cindy Carava. Cindy, how was 2019 for you? Tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you were working on.
Hi, Gino. Thanks for having me. 2019 was just really great. I had a great year selling homes all the way from Altadena, Arcadia, Monrovia, out to Upland and Ontario just recently. The market has been really good. We're looking forward to 2020 with an increase in home prices about 5.8% this year, opposed to last year where it was a little softer. We saw more like homes averaging about 3.5% in increase in value. It's also looking great for buyers. The interest rates right now are going to be staying under 4%. So if you've been on the fence about thinking about buying a home, now is the time to do so with interest rates still staying low.
And you offer more services than just the buying, selling, and leasing homes. Tell us about some of the other services that you offer and what a full-service realtor really is.
So you're right, Gino. Besides me being a full-service realtor of finding properties for my clients to buy or selling their homes or finding rentals for them, I also have a plethora of resources like handyman, contractors, electricians, plumbers. I even, if you're thinking about getting a home loan, I actually work with 2 great lenders that I can recommend to anybody.
And you're all over the internet, social media, websites. Let us know some of the places where we can find you. I know I've seen some reviews on Yelp and on Zillow. Everyone always has positive things to say. Everybody hears me raving about you all the time. But where can everyone else find out information about you or contact?
Thank you, Gino. Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can contact me on my website, which is www.cindycarava.com, or my email, which is cindyc.realtor@gmail.com, or feel free to call or text me on my cell phone, which is 626-394-6400.
Cindy is awesome. She's one of the kindest and most genuine people I've ever met. I promise you, you will enjoy every minute you interact with her. So thank you very much, Cindy. Appreciate all of your support from That's What G Said podcast.
Thank you, Gino. Have a great day, everyone.
So the Travers is in the books. And how crazy is this? We are going to get ready for the Kentucky Derby, the first Saturday in September. And talk about the field, our buddy, freelance horse racing writer, Ryan Dickey. Ryan, how weird does that sound? I mean, we have one prep race this weekend left that has some points, and maybe a couple horses that can come out of this race will come back and run in the Derby. But for the most part, we know what the field is going to look like, and it's a crazy 2020 that we're going to be running the Derby in September.
The first Saturday in September, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but nothing in 2020 is making sense, so let's just roll with it.
Yeah, and you might hear some faint sounds of the gardeners in the background. That's at my place. I've been doing my best to try to avoid them for the last hour or so, but I think they're far enough away to where the show must go on, Ryan. We just can't wait any longer. We have too much to talk about here with the horses. And I guess one of the major questions that we'll ask now, do you think we're going to get a field of 20?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think 17 is going to be about it for me.
Yeah. I mean, we may get a couple horses that have no points or very little points. Mm-hmm. It might be that situation because we're starting to see now when the Derby is earlier in the year, you're going to get a lot of people that probably have a little more Derby fever. They still don't quite know their 3-year-old horse yet. They haven't quite developed, but you throw this year into the mix where you have a couple extra months and you've been able to really get to know your horses by now. For the most part, we know a lot of these horses and what they're going to give us. So I think there's going to be a lot less Derby fever when many of these connections have already been trounced a few times by 'Tis the Law.
Yeah, that's correct. I think one of the benefits of having the Derby this far is people who had set out early in the year with their version of Derby fever, they realize, hey, you know what, maybe this just isn't for us. So I agree with you 100% there. But also on the flip side, I mean, Tiz the Law has been good for so long. I mean, when's the last time we saw a dominant 3-year-old with major victories in February, March, June, August, September?
And as a 2-year-old, you know what I mean? Like he did it in the Champagne. This is just a damn nice animal, and he's done it at 1.25 miles, which we've never seen in this weird world now, where he just won the Travers. So this is, and he's the number one gun, and he's your number one points leader, and he's going to be an overwhelming favorite. And what makes him even more of an overwhelming favorite, Ryan, is when you look at the horses throughout the year that would. If you were going to make a top 5 list of the 3-year-olds that have run this year, it would probably be Tiz the Law, Nadal, Charlatan, and Maxfield. They would have been like your next trio. And since those 3 horses are not in this group, that makes him such a standout in here.
Yeah. Do you remember Dennis's moment?
I know, right? It doesn't feel like years ago. It feels like worlds ago when we look back at some of these prep races for some of the horses. I mean, you look at a horse like King Guillermo, he's been so out of sight, out of mind, it feels like he hasn't run in years. And so that was I saw Travis Stone post a tweet, and our buddy Darren Zocali was going back and forth with him, and there was a DRF article about it. And the conversation now has been, how short of a price is he going to be? Because, he's your Champagne winner, your Florida Derby winner, your Travers winner, your Belmont winner. What's ironic is that his lone loss was actually at Churchill Downs, where he's going to have to run. But he didn't run poorly. He actually got in some trouble that day and still ran pretty well. How short are we talking? We're looking at these short price Derby favorites, and there was a list since 2001, and it was Bellamy Road, who was just over 5-2 at 2.6-1. California Chrome and Empire Maker, they were 5-2. We had Big Brown, who was 2.4-1, just under 5-2. Nyquist was 2.3. Point Given was 1.8. I mean, I'm going way under that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be even money or odds on, no doubt. But here's the thing is, every year, the week of the Kentucky Derby, or even 2 weeks before the Kentucky Derby, there's always a wise guy horse, a horse that's been working really well, and people start saying, oh, he's the one, and I'm going to use this one. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of people who aren't going to bet Tiz the Law because they're looking for value in a 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 horse field. So there's going to be another horse that's going to be, low odds, and if you can find one that's, the morning darling, that's going to really, really cut into his odds. So I say even money or just odds on. And what happens generally, even in the Derby too, is that we don't get the massive prices that we used to get anymore. We don't ever get the 90-1 shots, or even really horses that are like 50 up and over, because people play $2 and $5 to win on those horses. Many people just end up playing the big odds that we generally just don't get the massive bombs. But I mean, we get to Tiz the Law, and he is a standout. And it's funny, there's really nothing you can knock about this horse. And for some reason, the gambler in me wants to, just like you were saying. It's like, I don't know why he doesn't and hasn't given me the is warm and fuzzy unbeatable feeling. But God, and I'm like mad at myself when I say that, because this horse just continues to do nothing wrong. And honestly, when you look at this field and the way it's going to shape up, once you get past the top 4 horses on the points list, then we're really dropping to another tier of horses where you're starting to project and hope that they improve, because what they've done, I mean, it would be hard for one of the horses that aren't in the top, 4 to maybe 6 to even run a race good enough to compete with Tiz the Law right now. Everyone else, when you're looking at horses like maybe a Dr. Post or maybe a Max Player Changing Barnes or a Caracaro like on the upswing, horses like that, they could do it, but they need to improve. There's only a few horses that really seem like they're on the level with Tiz the Law when they run their best race. Correct. I mean, he's the relevant real deal Holyfield. I mean, it's one of those things where it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to win the Kentucky Derby. I mean, obviously he's the most likely winner, but he could be going for the Triple Crown in October, and then a month later he'd be running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I mean, I know American Pharoah did it, but he lost the Traverse in between, but he didn't win the third crown of the
Belmont
the third,
as the first one.
He didn't win it in that order, and then 1 month later was running for the the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's nice that they were both at Keeneland, though, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so okay, we'll get
right.
past number one. Tis the Law, who's the head honcho. I mean, we just it's hard to knock him. I can understand from a gambling perspective if you want, you're not playing him to win. That's fine. Yeah. I just can't leave him out of exotics. He's not one of these favorites that I'm saying I don't like this favorite, I'm going to try to beat him. I might try to look for a little value. Maybe I can find a 5 to 10 to 1 type shot in this next tier of horses. I think I kind of have one in mind. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks leading up. But let's get to number 2, Authentic. Sure. He is your San Felipe winner. He's your Haskell winner. He has just one loss. Very good speed, Baffert horse. I think we have some questions with him, though. Can he sit off the pace? Does he need the lead horse? And how far does he really want to go? He's the type of horse that I've never really been that high on, and he probably won't make his way into a lot of my exotics.
So my earlier thoughts on him are a little bit different than yours. Earlier this year, he was my pick to win the whole thing. I thought he was the best of the Baffert contingent. But then we had Nadal, and I thought, Nadal was kind of a scrappy runner. And I thought maybe Nadal. And then Cezanne came along, and I bought the hype on him for a little bit, but thankfully we don't have to worry about that anymore. But now Authentic is the best of the.
He's the lone one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with Uncle
1,000
Chuck.
words.
I doubt it.
Yeah,
1,000 words. Yeah.
I don't know if Uncle Chuck, but he feels like. I think they've said Uncle Chuck is not expected to run. And 1,000 words, I think he's kind of in this race because he kind of got lucky in a small field. He was better at 2. But it feels like this, you're right, this is the Baffert horse in this year's Derby.
Correct. And here's the thing is, looking at the horses who I believe are going to be in the gate for this Derby, he is one of 3 or 4 horses that I believe that are going to want to really get out to the lead. I know we don't want to try to project the Derby pace at this point because we don't know who's in and we don't know what the post positions are. But if you just look at the horses and their running styles, he's one that's definitely going to go.
Yeah, he's going. And we've seen Art Collector be pretty quick in his last few starts. Yep. New York Traffic's not going to want to be too far out of it. King Guillermo's always going to want to be close. You have to imagine with the way that 1,000 words won on the front end, they probably want to put him back there on the front end too. So, you start going through this field and you're right, you have a good amount. I think they've said Swiss Skydiver won't run, but maybe they have a big win this week in the Alabama and they change their mind and she's in there and she's another one that pushes the pace. I think they said Chivalry probably won't be running either, right. But he would be another. So there's a lot. There could be a good amount of speed, but I think he's definitely one of the quicker in here, and he feels like he's in the top tier still, even if I'm not as high on him personally myself, and maybe I'm not going to bet him to win, and maybe he's not a 1.25 mile horse. If there's definitely versions of this race where this horse gets a length lead and can win.
Correct. And if Tis the Law doesn't run his race for whatever reason, I mean, there are not a whole lot of other horses in this potential field who have the speed figures that have matched up to Authentic's best. So, I mean, Authentic is definitely not one that you're going to want to toss, but I mean, is there going to be a lot of value there on him?
Yeah.
Probably not. We'll have to wait and see.
And that's the key. If you're playing these, to me, there's these top 4 that I'm looking at: Tis the Law, Authentic, Art Collector, and Honor AP, who are the top 4 in the point standings. And I genuinely look at them as these 4 that are kind of a cut above everybody else in here. And so, when you're playing exotics, you probably can't just use you don't want to use A, B, C, D in a lot of the exotics. You're going to have to, whether you're playing Tis the Law, then maybe you're going to use a few underneath horses and maybe you toss Authentic and Art, or however you spread it, but you're just not going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4. And so maybe he's on your ticket, maybe he's not, but he is good enough to win the race. And you can't say that for probably more than 5 or 6 horses in this field. And that doesn't mean that they can't win if things get crazy and other horses don't show up. We've seen, that's why there are upsets. But he genuinely looks like one of the horses where he can run his A game and beat Tis the Law. And I think the same can be said for Art Collector, who's sort of the now horse, Ryan. He's 4 for 4 this year. He won the Bluegrass, where he sat 3rd off the pace, and he was able to get by Swiss Skydiver. He won the Ellis Park Derby. And you would imagine he's going to be forwardly placed here. And he is a horse who, if this Derby was run earlier in the year, he wouldn't have been in it. And so he definitely is a horse who has benefited from the change in schedule because he is a later developing type. And he is before the Bluegrass, nobody knew who Art Collector was. And he's really jumped up, and he's going to be one of your betting favorites in the Derby.
Sure. I mean, he's my sentimental choice to win. I mean, I do believe that Tis the Law has the best shot of winning, obviously. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But my sentimental choice to win the Derby is Art Collector. When I was doing homework for a horse purchase that I ended up not making, I went to Tommy Drury's barn at Skylight Training Center. And just meeting him the one time, I knew he was a hell of a horseman. And we never did any business together, but I have subsequently interviewed him and talked about Art Collector. And this horse has progressed well since the barn change. I mean, obviously he was in the Sharp barn earlier, and I think he's just going to be a short price here. And I'm not going to be upset if he wins, but he might not be somebody I use underneath because a Tis the Law Art Collector exact is not going to pay anything.
No. A horse who you may get a little more value on now because he didn't win his last race is Honor AP, who's number 4 on the points list. He's your Santa Anita Derby winner. He was in a field of 4 last time out. We were 1-5 favorite, and it was a really weird race in the shared belief. There was just no pace on. I think a lot of people expected Cezanne to be the pace, and then 1,000 Words ends up going from the inside, and he moved really he didn't break great. He's a horse who kind of needs to sit, relax, and then make one run. And he had to move early from the back to try to depress the lone speed. And then he dropped back, but then he came on again late and he kind of kicked into gear. I think it was a good race to set him up for this because he won't have that same type of style. That's not the trip that he needs to win this. The way he wins this race is if Art Collector is just sort of what we talked about. If those speed horses go, he's able to sit maybe in front of some of the deep closers or maybe a little right behind Tis the Law and go by them. I think he is a legitimate contender. He may be a win contender for me at, over 6-1 or so. If he's in the 6-1 range, between that 10-1, I think I'll probably give him a very long look because he didn't need to win that last race. It wasn't a race. I don't think as soon as the gate's over and the horse clears like that, I never thought he was going to win that race. You could tell he was all in early, and then it was weird. He came back on again. So for me, he's my sort of early horse I'm looking at and maybe keying in on.
Well, I think that his streak of going second and then first and then second and first and second first, I think that's going to end here on the first Saturday of September. And while he has shown the requisite speed figures to compete with Art Collector and Authentic, I think you hit it. His running style sort of matches Tis the Law. And I think they're going to be, the second tier of horses. I just don't think that he's going to be able to match up with that horse. I mean, he's been running in small fields. Mm-hmm. And for me, he's going to be a bet against. But I see that there's definitely going to be value on him because he might be at that 6-1, 8-1 range. So, I mean, that's one of the few horses in the top 5 or top 6 that I'm going to try to play against.
Yeah, and I think I like him more because of the loss. I think had he won his last race and he was coming in and he would have been probably your second choice in here. Instead, you might even get double what you could have gotten on him if he was coming off of a couple big looking victories. So Honor AP at number 4. And then these next 2 horses, where I feel like after these top 4, it does drop off. Number 5 and 6 on the list are very hard-knocking horses. They are super honest. They are going to give you everything they've got out on the track. They're going to give you a great run for your money. Number 5 is New York Traffic, second in the Haskell. He looked like he was done behind Authentic, and then he just dug in late and came on again and made things really close. I mean, he's a fighter. Second in the Haskell, second in the Matt Winn, second in the Louisiana Derby, third in the Risen Star. He's got the running style where he can sit right behind. He's not going to be too far out of it. It's just there's a lot, like we're starting to go through these horses now. Tis the Law, Art Collector, Honor AP will probably be a little behind them, but some of these better horses in here all sort of have that style. And is he going to be able to go a mile and a quarter? And if he's at the top of the lane on even terms with a Tis the Law or an Art Collector or Honor AP or any of them, is he going to be able to close with them?
Yeah, he has shown heart. He has finished second 3 times in a row. Those were all graded stakes wins, or graded stakes races. He came in third in the Risen Star. He's definitely going to be one of those, forwardly placed. I like him. I'm just looking at his past performances and looking at his speed figures. It was a big step up in that run at Monmouth, Haskell. There's a possibility he could be ready for the dreaded bounce. Mm-hmm. But again, he's going to represent plenty of value, and if
he's
Authentic,
not far behind,
no,
right?
Not,
yeah,
no,
that's the thing.
He's in the top tier for sure.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And so you're right. If he could be one of those horses that gets a little forgotten about.
Yes,
because people look down and they go, oh, you know what? He was beaten by and he's beaten by Maxfield, and he's been beaten by some of the better in here, and he's more of an under. But he could be a very nice, like, exacta try super horse to have if he float. You know, he could be that sneaky forgotten about horse. And speaking of forgotten about, I mean, King Guillermo, number 6 on the list. It feels like we haven't seen this guy in forever. He is your Tampa Bay Derby winner. And then he was a pretty solid second in the Arkansas Derby behind Nadal. He really tried hard. He sat third on the inside, but he has not raced since May the 2nd. We're talking about a 4-month layoff. I mean, put that into perspective for an old Kentucky Derby. That would be like a horse who had not raced since January coming into the Derby. And so, you know, it's different, obviously, because the way this year has been, but it just, I would so much rather have seen him with a race or two under his belt leading into this.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the anti-Kenny Powers. He's literally trying to be the best at exercising. I mean, his last race was on the day that the Kentucky Derby was supposed to be on. All these other horses that we're talking about have run 2-3 times since then. He hasn't run yet. I mean, he's the wild card of wild cards in this wacky Derby. And I'm not going to put anything past 2020 here. I will have action on him, even though my brain says he's a toss. I mean, like you said, it's like he hasn't raced since January coming in the Kentucky Derby, but stranger things have happened. And, you know, his speed figures are up there with everybody in this field except for Tiz the Law.
Yeah, and he's got the style to at least put himself in the race and give you a good run for your money. And I like the fact that he's proven he's not I need to be right on the lead. I can actually sit and make a bid and come past some horses if I have to. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't really have any knocks on King Guillermo. It's just it's going to be crazy trying to see a horse who hasn't run in so long. It's like there were a few of these horses we look down at, and it's like, wow, this horse is in the top 20. You know, and the next one, 1,000 Words. He was one of those 2-year-olds who was good. And he won the Los Al Futurity, and then he came back at 3, won the Bob Lewis, and he won the Shared Belief, where he went wire to wire in a very small field, and that was after 3 kind of dull efforts in between his big wins. So he was an undefeated Baffert horse who was good early, then he threw in a couple clunkers, and then he was able to pick up some more points when he wired that small field, and he beat Honor AP in the Shared Belief. I don't know. To me, I think he was a real beneficiary of that small field getting the lead. I can't really envision myself using him.
Me either. He's very intriguing because the question is, did he finally wake up, or did he just benefit from the small field and ran what should be his race? I mean, I'm going to go with Bounce City. I don't think he's that good. I'm going to toss him.
I mean, and he's always been a grinder type, and so maybe being on the lead for that type of a horse is where he wants to be, because then he can just keep grinding and not let him pass. But I'm with you. Like I just like others more in here. A horse like Dr. Post, the connections have said he's number 8 on the list. They've said they're not sure. Maybe he could be running. He was second in the Belmont. He was no match for Tiz the Law. He was third in the Haskell. And of the top 3 in there, he did have the worst of the trips. He was on the inside. He got shuffled a little bit behind horses, and he came on late. He maybe he's a little bit of an upside horse, but they're still deciding on whether they're going to run. And some of these horses, what's difficult is where they've been no match for Tiz the Law. It's like, why isn't Tiz the Law going to keep improving? What, you know what I mean? Like, he's still a 3-year-old on the upswing too. It's just hard for some of these horses if they didn't have a ton of trouble behind them, and if he was just better, I have a hard time projecting them beating him or some of the top few. So I would have no problem with people using horses like Dr. Post. I just don't know if I'm completely sold on him.
So this is one of the few horses that we're going to talk about where I think it's very important to watch their work tabs over the next 3 weeks.
He might be one of those workhorses, right? Those wise guy really that loves the track, and he's really buzzy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's by Quality Road out of a graded stakes winning mare who was by Hennessy. And Hennessy only raced as a 2-year-old, but he finished second to Unbridled Song in the BC Juvenile. And Quality Road, as we know, he won the Fountain of Youth, won the Florida Derby, but he missed the Kentucky Derby. I just think we haven't seen the full potential of Dr. Post yet. A mile and a quarter might be the limit of his distances. But if he's healthy and he's sound and cranked, he could be one of those sneaky underneath horses that bettors look for. I think his running style will lend well in this edition of the Derby, depending on his post position. I mean, he's obviously post dependent. Yep. But I think he's definitely a moderate long shot pick if he runs.
The 8, 9, and 10 horses are all at least somewhat intriguing to me. Number 9, Max Player, who is now with Steve Asmussen. They've just changed barns. And this was your Withers winner, who was off from February to June. When the Belmont got changed, they decided to take some time off. And he was third in the Belmont, third in the Travers. No match for Tiz the Law in either of them. But he is a late runner who will pass horses. He is going to absolutely be a horse I'm using in Exactas, Tries, and Supers. I don't know. He'll need the right setup to win, and I can see him getting that kind of a setup. There are versions of this race where that happens, but he's an exotics horse for me.
Sure. I mean, I was really high on Max Player in the Travers. I mean, I didn't think he was going to beat Tiz the Law, but just transferring, that transfer leaves a bad taste in your mouth a little bit. I think karma-wise is kind of bad juju, but I think this horse hasn't really progressed a lot numbers-wise as a 3-year-old, and I think Asmussen will improve this horse, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it in 28 days. And like I said, bad karma, bet against.
You're right. When you make the change, something like late like that, it's. Yeah. I know. I don't like it either. It doesn't give you the good feels in your belly. A horse who's lightly raced now with some upside is number 10 on the list is Caracaro. He broke his maiden in January, and then he didn't race until July the 16th, and he was second in the Peter Pan. He came back, and he was second in the Travers, which is really nice because for a lightly raced horse who's now going to be making his third start off the long layoff, he's already got a race at 1.25 miles. He needs to improve on Tiz the Law, no doubt, but he feels like one of the horses who has some upside to at least be able to do that.
Yeah, so there's literally nothing I can say here that can add to that. That's exactly the same. I feel the exact same way about this horse.
I like him. Yeah, I like him. He'll be on a lot of my tickets. It looks like the horse who beat him in the Peter Pan is not expected to run. Number 11, Country Grammar. He was 5th in the Fountain of Youth, and then he won the Peter Pan, then he was 5th in the Travers. So we can kind of skip over him because they've said that they are not going to be running. But number 12 on the list is Enforceable. He was your Lecomte winner. He's 2nd in the Risen Star, 5th in the Louisiana Derby. Didn't race from March till July, 4th in the Bluegrass. He is training at Churchill. He's going to be coming off a little bit of a break too, almost 2 months, where when he'll show up at Churchill for the first Saturday in September. He's a closer who needs pace help. He's an underneath horse for me. I just don't. He would really need a great trip, things to fall apart. I can see him hitting the board absolutely. I have him on a fantasy team too, so I'd love it if he won.
You're rooting for him.
I'm rooting for him. I think he's more of a 2, 3, 4 horse, and I'm a little worried that he might have just been better earlier in the year than he is right now.
Yeah, I really wanted him to be my sneaky Derby pick, but his running style, I prefer stalkers rather than plotters in the Derby, obviously because of the traffic. Yeah, I mean, give me a stalker in the Derby over a plotter any day. But again, it's pace dependent. If this pace is really fast and it melts down, he's going to be the one chugging at the end. Is he going to be better than some of the ones that are more forwardly placed early? Who knows? I will have him underneath. I'm not going to be playing the Super this year because they made it a 10-cent minimum, but I will put him underneath in my trifectas.
Yeah, I'll be doing similar. Number 13, Swiss Skydriver. Don't really have to talk about the filly too much. She won the Gulfstream Oaks, the Fantasy, Santa Anita Oaks, and she has a solid 2nd in the Bluegrass versus the boys. She's going to run in the Alabama on Saturday. They have said that she was not expected to run in the Derby. In fact, they've kind of, I believe one of the owners kind of said something like, "Bring on Gamine" already. So it seems like he's excited for a matchup there with the Baffert filly. So I think Chivalry, who they said had not expected to run, which I think is good. Chivalry would have just given you some extra pace in here, but he was a horse who was 2nd in the Florida Derby. That got him the points. And then his last couple starts, he was 11th in the Bluegrass, 11th in the Travers. So they would have just been a pace factor. They're not going to be running. But number 15, Rushy, is still up in the air because they need to supplement in order to get in. Rushy is, one of those horses who I don't think he's as good as Tiz the Law, but he feels to me like, in that next tier of horses, maybe with the Caracaros or the Dr. Posts, who are sort of lightly raced with some upside. He was 3rd in the Santa Anita Derby, 3rd in the Bluegrass, and he was wide, and he loomed up in the Bluegrass. He was right on, even terms with the top 2 before the top of the lane, and then they spurted clear there. I wouldn't talk people off of using him in exotics if he snuck into this race. I don't know if he would be quite good enough to win.
Yeah, I mean, my notes on him is he's gutty. I mean, he could gut out a trip, but I think he's just in over his head. He's definitely one of those horses in the list that's pace dependent. He should be 30-1 or 40-1, all of that. I mean, if you're playing the superfecta and you want to put him underneath at 40-1, go ahead. But just know that there's going to be a lot of people that have the all in that spot.
One horse who's going to be, taking back and making a late run. He was second in the Risen Star, fourth in the Louisiana Derby, 10th in the Matt Win, and then second in the Indiana Derby after a slow start. He was last. He made a big wide move. Feels sort of max player-ish in with the way he runs, and I could see him at the bottoms. But again, now, like I said, once you get past those top 4 or 5, we're looking at a lot of horses who look similar on paper. If they got the right kind of trip, they could probably hit the board, but he would really need things to go his way to win this race.
Yeah, I talked to Greg Foley about this horse, and he said, throw out the Matt Win. He didn't get off to a good start. He was 7 wide. It was just not a good race. So if you cut that one out and you look at the other ones, he still doesn't have the top tier speed figure numbers as the ones in here, that we talked about in the top tier. He just worked a half mile bullet, 46 and 4/5 seconds, which is cooking pretty good. He's one of those where I want to watch the work tab.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Ghost Zapper colt out of a Smart Strike mare, and he could be waking up. So just watch his work tab, and if he looks like he's ready to wake up and move forward, he might be a sneaky one to use underneath.
To include your 2-year-old Champ Storm the Court, he was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner. But in 2020, he was 4th in the San Vicente. So we can give him an excuse for that. He needed the race. He was 3rd in the San Felipe. He was actually okay that day. He was behind Authentic and Honor AP. And then he was in the Arkansas Derby. He was 6th. I was even willing to make an excuse for him that day. The Ohio Derby one, though, to me, there were just no excuses that day when he was 3rd. He was really classier and as good as anyone in that field. And I don't know if he really wants to go by. He's kind of a grinder. And he was able to get the nose down in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and that's kind of why we know him. He actually didn't run poorly on the grass when they tried the turf last time out. He was second in the La Jolla behind a sharp horse. I think the connections have actually said they may actually take a shot here in the Derby. They feel like he can go long, but we've seen some of these 2-year-olds that just didn't really progress, and he feels like he's one of them. He's another horse who I have on a fantasy league. I would love for him to win. I don't mind when he picks up checks and picks up minor awards in these stakes races, but he hasn't given me like warm and fuzzy feelings really all year long.
No, he's like a popular child actor who still gets acting roles based
That's such a good comparison. Macaulay Culkin or something.
Yeah,
That's
I
funny.
I agree. I mean, he really has not shown any improvement at all as a 3-year-old. And, congratulations on him winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I just don't want anything to do with him here.
No, that was great. That made me laugh. Number 18, Attachment Rate. He was able to get in with his, second in the Ellis Park Derby where he was, wide all the way around. And then he loomed up, but then AC Slater, art collector, was able to just put him away and kick on that day. So Attachment Rate, who had been sort of highly regarded, 3rd in the Gotham, 4th in the Matt Win, 5th in the Bluegrass, and then he ran well in Ellis Park Derby. He is a horse who, at a big price, I can see underneath. I can't, if I'm playing with Tiz the Law or maybe Honor AP on top and I'm tossing, some of the next 2nd, 3rd, 4th choices, and I'm using bombs, I could use him in here. I would prefer him over a horse like Storm the Court. I think there's a little more upside with him. I'm not in love with him. I like others more.
First of all, I got your Saved by the Bell reference. That was very nice. I like how you snuck that in there. And we all knew that Dale Romans would have a 2020 Derby runner this year, didn't we? We just thought it was going to be Dennis Moment, but we did. It's maiden winner Attachment Rate, who finished a game second to Art Collector in the Ellis Park Derby, which I cannot believe we're talking about as a Kentucky Derby prep race. I just don't think he's fast enough.
Yeah.
The other times he's running graded stakes races, he's finished 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I don't want anything to do with him here.
Number 19 is a new door, who they've said now is not going to run. He was 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, 2nd in Low South Futurity, but he was just like Storm the Court. They were 1-2 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. A New Door was 9th in the Risen Star this year, 4th in the Sandy Derby, 4th in the Arkansas Derby, 8th in the Ellis Derby. They're going to give him some time off. Number 20 is Sol Volante. He is your Sam F. Davis winner, and he's had sort of a weird pattern when you look. So he wins the Sam F. Davis. He comes back and he's 2nd in the Tampa Bay Derby. And then he runs in that Gulfstream allowance race, which was like a stakes race because there was nothing else going on at the time. They just needed to have a race for horses to run. He was against Ete Indian and a couple other legitimate horses in there. And he won that race. And he came back 10 days later in the Belmont. He was kind of a hot, buzzy horse because he feels like he can run all day. And he just was very flat. He was 6th. He worked July the 31st. He worked August the 9th. He is another one of those horses who it's like you forgot about. He's like King Guillermo. It's like, man, this guy doesn't feel like he's been around for forever.
Yeah, so if you notice that work that he did at Palm Meadows Training Center on August 9th, that was a 1 mile work.
Yeah.
So he went 8 furlongs. A return to form or even a forward move from his Sam Davis win or even the allowance victory that he had over Chivalry and Ete Indian could put this Caracante Gelding in as a sneaky choice to use underneath.
Yeah.
And I want you to keep an eye on that work tab. And I'm letting it be known right here, right now. This is the horse that I think is going to be the underdog, high odds darling that's going to really help with the trifecta. I think Sol Volante hits the board in the Kentucky.
There's always one of them, right? There's always that late running horse, and I really like that Gulfstream allowance win. It felt like it wasn't the conditions that he wants, and he still was able to win that race at Gulfstream. And then he was a little flat coming back quickly, so I'm fine with it. I'm okay with using him. I like him a lot more than many others in here. He will be on a lot of my tickets, especially in the 2, 3, 4 spots for sure. A lot of folks will be rooting for the one-eyed Finnick the Fierce, who they've said that he will run. He was 4th in the Lecomte, 2nd in the Jockey Club, so he's run well at Churchill, 7th in the Risen Star, 3rd in the Arkansas Derby. He was 7th in the Bluegrass. But he's a big price. I think this is a horse who they feel like, hey, you know what? If we get the chance to get in, it's the Derby. Wouldn't it be great if we could hit the board?
If Ray Hernandez knows how to do a rain dance, I highly suggest he does it about a day before the Kentucky Derby. Hopefully after the Oaks, because we don't want to have a sloppy Oaks. But hopefully, in his case, he gets it because if there's a sloppy track at Churchill Downs and this horse is in this race, there's a good chance he hits the board. Other than that, I don't think he's a contender at all.
So we're past number 20, so just I'm going to quickly go through the horses who are on the outside of the top 20 because they're actually going to be sneaking into the top 20 now if they want to run. One of them is Pneumatic, and he's actually going to run this weekend on Saturday in the Pegasus. A first or a second would get him in, but now knowing that everybody else is defected, he's basically already in if he wants to go. He was 3rd in the Matt Win, where he did have an excuse. He actually ran pretty well. He was 4th in the Belmont, and he was a little bit wide. He's still lightly raced. He's still figuring things out. He's not far behind that next tier of horses with some upside. It would be kind of a lot to ask for him to run here, come back in a few weeks in a really, really tough spot. I wouldn't mind him going into the race if he came out of maybe the Travers with a decent 3rd. I'm just not sure with this race in the middle if that's going to help or hurt him, but he's going to be in now if they choose to run.
Well, this spacing is where the Arkansas Derby normally
You're right.
3 weeks before.
It feels quicker when you look, but it's not. It's really the same. Yeah, you're right.
What are we going to do if he freaks? If he freaks in the Pegasus and wins going away and he puts up a big number, then he's going to have to jump up tremendously. But if he doesn't do well and he still gets in, what do you do? I mean, it's really, really important to see how he does on Saturday before you determine what you want to do. Luckily, we've got a long time before the Derby actually goes off, but he's a wild card. To me, the 2 biggest wild cards are Pneumatic and King Guillermo.
Yeah, no, I can totally see him being a wild card in here. I don't dislike him. I need to see a little more from him, and with a big effort this weekend, even in a small field against a short field. With a horse like this, I'm not concerned about his talent. It's just I think there's going to be a ton of talent whenever he eventually peaks. It's just when is he going to get there? Right. Is he there yet? He might be a great horse when he gets older, in next year, or when he's able to allow and get a little bit bigger. So he's got some ability. It's just I'm not sure if this will be the right time. Let's watch that race this weekend. Jesus' team is going to also be in that race in the Pegasus. He's got 10 points. He's number 29 on the list. And so, I mean, he's pretty much in if he wants to run 2, and especially if he wins, he would have 30 points, or if he ran second, he would, have 18 with the 8 for finishing second. But he's, he would be probably the longest shot in the entire field if he were able to get in. And just some notes on some of the other horses. Number 23 was Dean Martini. They've said he won't run. That was your Ohio Derby winner, 6th in the Ellis Park Derby. Shared Sense, they are not sure if he runs. He was the Indiana Derby winner. He was 5th in the Ellis Derby. He didn't really have a very good ride. He was way too far back, and he just had no shot with that kind of trip. He's still seems he would be a big long shot in here. And then Uncle Chuck, he was the hot Travers horse. I mean, but he just didn't run. He really didn't run well at all. He was no match for Tiz the Law when he loomed up, and he just flattened out. They are not expected to run him, Ryan. That was your Los Al Derby winner. So now, I mean, we're not looking to get South Bend. They said he won't run. But the connections of Necker Island have said he is in consideration. He's number 28 on the list, but again, with all these defections, he's going to be into the top 20. He was third in the Indiana Derby, third in the Ellis Park Derby. So we're getting to the point, Ryan, where there were 3 horses mentioned in some articles that have 0 points. Happy Saver, Money Move, and Sherrill Spate were horses that connections have maybe considered running in what they see happens in the next few weeks with the field. Because, hey, even if you don't think you're good enough to beat Tiz the Law, if this field ends up being like a field of 10 or 12 and you think you got a horse that can hit the board in the Derby, you might take a swing.
Yeah, I mean, Atfield's going to bring Sherrill Spite. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Pretty sure of it. Had a nice work this morning. Was it 47 flat?
Yep.
For half?
Yep.
Yeah.
So right now, this is what we're looking at. We are looking at a field that has Tiz the Law, Authentic, Art Collector, Honor AP, New York Traffic, King Guillermo, 1,000 Words, Dr. Post, Max Player, Cara Caro, Enforceable, Major Fed, Attachment Rate, Sol Volante, Finnick the Fierce, and Necker Island. That's 16. Yeah. And those are the connections of the horses that they've said we are for sure going to run in the Derby. There are a couple other question marks, but we're right now. We are not getting 20.
Right,
we're not, and I would bet we're getting closer to 10 than 20. Even I would be shocked if maybe. And it's unfortunate. We're still 3 weeks away, 3+ weeks away when we're recording this. 1 or 2 of these horses will probably have some sort of an issue training. It's just inevitable. They're horses. They're not machines. Something leading up, some small issue. Maybe they're not completely cranked a few days before they end up scratching. This could be a very, very small field, and we're going to have the heaviest favorite we've had in a long time. But he is a good horse. He really is. I would have loved to see him in this race with Nadal, with Charlatan, with Maxfield. But you know what? That's not his fault. He can't control that, and we can't knock him for just beating who he has to beat on the track each and every time. The Derby is good when there's a big favorite. I think it's fun when it's wide open, but it's more fun. It's more fun from a popular standpoint, because are you going to beat the favorite? Are you going to bet the favorite? How is this going to happen? How are you going to approach everything? It's a talking point, and when people know the horse, and we know Tiz the Law. He's been around now for about a year, and he's been very, very dominant.
Correct. I mean, there's really nothing I can add to that. I mean, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's cool. So, we have some quality 3-year-olds. It's just going to be a completely different year this year, Ryan. And we know, as racing fans, as sports fans, I think I'm at the point this year where I'm not really going to complain about differences in schedules, things being different. It was cool to get to Belmont. It was cool to get the Travers. I'm glad we've had a summer where we've had Saratoga and Del Mar. Hey, we got a great weekend coming up at Woodbine this weekend. So for in a year where a lot of other sports, a lot of other industries, companies have had to, look what we just saw with college football, completely drastically cancel, postpone, delay everything. Horse racing has been pretty sort of lucky in that sense.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, if you look at all the handle numbers, for the most part, they're up everywhere and up a lot. And there's been a lot of horse racing on TV channels and stations that aren't normally on. Mm-hmm. And now we have, baseball's back and hockey's in the playoffs and the NBA's in the playoffs. But still, there's still plenty of racing to be seen. So I'm excited about it. And, I'm happy to see the Derby in September. It's better to have a September Derby than no Derby.
100%, man. As a college basketball fan, I would love March Madness in September if there was a way. I would just anything for me is more. So, Ryan, awesome. I always love talking racing with you. Appreciate it. Give us your plugs out there. Let the folks know where can we follow you along on social media.
You can follow me at Twitter at rdickey249. And thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun talking with you.
Awesome. Ryan Dickey, you are the man. Appreciate it. You have a great weekend, buddy, and we'll link back up and we'll talk more racing soon.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Folks, don't you go anywhere. We're going to take a break. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors. We'll be right back with plenty. A big thank you to Ryan. a big thank you to everyone. We had a really fun show. We had Tyler Harringer from Cera Candles. Make sure to follow along with Cera Candles and help him out, help me out, help everybody out, and we'll help you out, giving you the 10% off when you use the promo code Gino. We talked with Scott Shapiro. We talked about Saratoga Saturday. We talked with Emily Gullikson from Optics EQ. We talked all about Woodbine Saturday, and then all about the Derby field, who's going to run, who's not, some big early thoughts on horses that we like or maybe horses that we'll be playing against. Ryan Dickey was awesome. So I had a blast on this show. Make sure to subscribe, download, rate, review, share it around with your friends, and pay attention because the schedule is going to be a little bit different this next week because the NBA starting on Monday. I want to have a full preview of the opening round, all of the series that comes out before the playoffs start on Monday. So look for that. It'll depend on what happens in the Saturday play-in game and Sunday. I'm aiming to have this episode come out sometime on Sunday, and we'll talk NBA preview. We'll talk SummerSlam 89. I've got an old wrestling rewatch with Andrew Champagne and Darren Zocali that we just recorded the other day, and I'll put that on the show. I'm going to recap Hard Knocks, the episode on HBO. We had episode 1 the other day. Recap that, and I think we're going to have some early week racing, probably some Monday and Tuesday racing. We'll look around, see what jumps out at me, and where we can make a little money there. So thanks again, folks. Good luck this weekend, and we are getting, in a sports-wise, back to, I don't want to speak too soon, but back to a little bit of normalcy. Now these shows are so much to discuss in the world of sports where you've got baseball games every day, basketball playoffs now starting, NHL. I haven't covered a whole lot of NHL because I'm not really as much of an expert, but I'm thinking about bringing someone in soon to talk a little bit more about that. And, we'll continue on always with horse racing. We're going to have a wrestling SummerSlam is going to be next weekend coming up. We'll have a preview for that. I am really, really happy to be watching the Dodgers and Lakers, and keep our fingers crossed everybody stays safe out there. Thanks, folks. Have a great, great weekend.